3, 2, 1. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to This is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast. My name is George, and this week I am joined by not one, but two wonderful gentlemen. They've got the memo about wearing a hat. I'm joined by Mr. Spike and Dave the Mark. Gents, how are we?
All good, mate. Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Definitely feeling the tiredness of having a day at wrestling yesterday. This is just life for me now, post 40. And looking forward to be dying out of my backside come Monday evening once all of the wrestling's happened. But yeah, not too bad. Can't complain. How you doing, Spike?
Yeah, I'm good. Like you, I'm recovering from a shouty day yesterday. But the first thing I said this morning didn't come out of my mouth. It just stayed there. But we're getting better.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit worried today because not only was I getting quite into it yesterday, but today I've been on a call with a new starter at work I'm training, and we've probably been on calls for about 6 hours of the day today. So I was worried if my voice was actually going to hold up. So I was taking the Francesca route of every opportunity I got, I went and topped up my water and was just drinking constantly today. If it's good enough for the professionals, it's good enough for me. But yeah,
Stay hydrated.
Exactly, stay hydrated. I'm on the hard stuff tonight. The summer fruit squash in a Copperberg glass.
I got some lemonade tonight.
Oh,
branching out. No
fancy.
coffee.
What is going on? Dave without coffee?
Do you know what? I haven't actually had a coffee today.
Wow.
I don't remember the last time I went a day without a coffee. Like literally years.
Wow.
Well done, you.
Woke up this morning feeling a bit rough and was like, do you know what? Caffeine might just actually knock me the other way, so I'm going to avoid it today. I'll be back on it tomorrow.
Fair enough. No, I'm glad it's one of those things that I don't like because from everyone was saying, I just need a coffee. I just need a coffee. Like I know I'd get addicted to the stuff, but I love the smell. Like I'd happily have a coffee machine at home just for the smell of coffee. It's a bit of an odd one, but what are you drinking there, Spike?
Coffee. A nice cup of coffee.
Well, promise we're not sponsored by Wrestling with Coffee, but if they'd like to get in contact and sponsor the show, we're open to all kinds of sponsors, I'm sure, here.
They have nice merch. I'd happily wear it every week.
Yeah, you know what? To be fair, I do like the merch that I see. I just don't like coffee. I don't know. My brain doesn't compute. Well, you don't drink coffee, so why would you buy that merch? But it looks like nice merch as well. That's an insight to my weird brain.
I discovered that brand a couple of years ago, just purely because of the fact that I love wrestling and coffee. And I think because I'd tweeted a few times about wrestling and coffee, that somehow like our algorithms linked us up.
Love that.
And then suddenly I started seeing their name everywhere, and you start seeing things like, like Robbie X has got WXC on his boots and stuff like that, and you're like, actually, this is actually quite like a big brand. I just thought it was like a random little coffee and wrestling like bunch of marks like me.
Yeah, I was surprised when I went onto their page and started having to dig around and just saw like how big this brand is. It was like, oh shit, like this is not just no disrespect to them. I just expected this really niche little brand that, I mean, obviously it's probably a niche within the wider coffee world, but a really niche little brand that catered to maybe like a small subsection. I can't remember off the top of my head the wrestlers I saw involved or who had merch. I was like, this is crazy. Like, fair play to them.
Yeah, so many. Like the fact that like you've got like Moxley, Taz, and Mustafa Ali as like
that was it,
three of their like the first people that you see, and then you just kind of dig a bit deeper, and you're like, oh my god, there's like bloody loads of people like wearing wrestling and coffee merch. But yeah, they're cool. They're cool people. Like I've had quite a lot of interactions with them over the years, and they've always been absolutely lovely. And when I've bought merch, it's always come really quickly and like been really good. Even when I messed it up and I ordered the wrong thing, and I had to message them. I'm really sorry, I ordered the wrong thing. Is there a way it back.
Nice, yeah, and I love that as well. Like, not only when you order merch and it gets out quick, like our friend Spike here had with the lovely T-shirt he's wearing today. It's always nice when it's good quality stuff and they get out to you really quickly, isn't it? Nice.
Yeah, this one took 2 days. Did we decide on?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, about 2 days from when you said you received it. Yeah, about 2 days. Which, like I said to you, the longest I've ever waited for something is literally 4 and a bit months. Just because that's how long it took to send out. So the joys of like an indie wrestling, but understanding what these guys go through on a week by week basis. God, it couldn't be me. Could not be me. So we touched on it, guys, that we were at Southampton yesterday, and I think between that and the Copper Box coming up, we have got quite a bit to talk about, haven't we? So, I suppose, Dave, what was your thoughts yesterday, kind of going into Southampton? What were you expecting from the card and coming out of it? Did that differ, or how did you feel after it?
I think it was a
I'm
massive over delivery.
Cool.
Just going to relocate the laptop because I keep freezing.
Spike will join us in a moment, ladies and gents. But yeah, Dave.
Yeah, I think it was a massive over delivery in the sense that I always trust that a Rev Pro card's going to be really good no matter who's booked for it. Like, it's why I buy my tickets like well in advance. I don't wait for the cards to drop or even a match to be announced before I get my tickets, because one, I like to be organised and I like to know what I'm doing, and two, because I literally just trust the process because I've never been let down by it. When the card was announced, I thought it looked really good. You could see how it was going to link to the Copper Box, but I didn't think that they would make as many clear links to the Copper Box as they did. I feel like I genuinely think there'll be people that would have left Southampton yesterday who didn't have a ticket for Saturday, who have gone home and bought a ticket for Saturday. Yeah. And ultimately, that's got to be the goal of a go-home show, isn't it? I do feel that I feel like the original plan must surely have been for that main event to be Destination Everywhere versus Young Guns, and to have Ethan Allen versus Mills and Oku versus Jacobs. They'd kind of teased the Mills and Oku being like on the same page, even if they're not friends, even if they're not Destination. You know, I can't imagine they'd come out wearing Destination Everywhere gear, and they wouldn't come out to Destination Everywhere music.
Yeah.
But it would be Mills and Oku in the same ring. Obviously, that couldn't happen with Mills not being cleared after getting hurt last week in your call. But with that being said, that main event was absolutely like stellar. I did the top 10 shows of the year list, cut like literally, I think last week, maybe the week before, and like immediately that goes straight into the top 10.
Wow.
Like that list has to be torn up and started again now. And that was, I don't think anything. I think that match was by far the best Rev Pro match of the month so far. Bearing in mind, last week we had Summer Sizzler and we had MJF and we had Trevor Lee and we had Dijak and we had all these people. I think the main event of yesterday's show was the best match from the two shows by a long way.
Yeah, I first of all, I agree with what you said about the main event. What you said you thought it'd be, and I have to agree with you. I think that is definitely where it's going. But I mean, that's not a bad match, is it? For a backup match, if you will, like bringing Zazaya in there and then having that. In the moment, it definitely felt like one of the best matches I've seen in that venue. Just off the top of my head, it's up there with Ospreay and Oku one for me, and Luke Jacobs and Zazaya. And look at those two matches that I've said there. Zazaya, Luke Jacobs, and Michael Oku. And then you add Ethan Allen into that, who, God, that guy just seems to be on another level every time I see him. And I don't know what he reminds me of someone. I just can't, I really can't work out who it is he reminds me of.
Do you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Spike and I we had like a little word in each other's ear yesterday when he was like, really reminds me of somebody. And I was like, I know who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a really specific person at a really specific time.
Okay.
So he reminds me of Kyle O'Reilly.
Yes,
but
that's it.
He reminds me of Kyle O'Reilly during the Undisputed Era heel run, when the Undisputed Era, before Roderick Strong came into it, when it was just Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. So sort of around the time that they had like that absolutely incredible match with Mustache Mountain, with Tyler Bate and Trent Seven. One of my favourite matches of all time. And it was that time when Kyle O'Reilly basically, he didn't really say anything. He didn't need to say anything. And he was just a killer. And there's loads of stylistic similarities between Ethan Allen and Kyle O'Reilly, but also there's like quite a lot of the presentation that I see. And that's a massive compliment, because I think that at that time, that was sort of like NXT was the best product in the world for me, and Undisputed Era was the main attraction of that.
Thank you. You've unlocked in my brain, because subconsciously there was someone that I just thought this guy was like, and it's even like the slight shoulder hunches as he moves and the way he moves around. And yeah, you're 100% right. And as soon as you said that, light bulb is just like gone.
How mad is it to think that over the course of the coming weekend we'll get to see both men live as well?
Yeah, you know what, mate? I'm going to be completely upfront, right? I had no ties to Young Guns before, so I didn't know enough about Ethan Allen. And I know we've got RevPro on demand, but I've also got a job, and there's only so many hours of the day that I can convince the missus to sit down and watch wrestling, even though she is probably the second biggest RevPro mark that I know. But even still, like, she'll want to sit and watch it all with me, and I haven't had that opportunity to go through the archives yet, and I really want to. And so he's not one that I'm massively like aware of beforehand. I knew who he was, his role in Young Guns and whatnot. So him coming back has been a brand new wrestler for me in a lot of ways. So when that match got announced, him versus Mills, I will be upfront, I wasn't enthused, right? I was really hoping something bigger for Connor Mills, because I think Connor Mills on the men's side is probably wrestler of the year in terms of where he started the year to where he is now, right? He's progressed so much, and he was already at a really high standard anyway. And I wanted that big marquee match for him. But you know what? I think the two of them, what they've done and how they've built this. Now, I don't want to see any match for them other than the match they're in now. They've done such a good job of getting there.
Do you know what? Now I'm in the position where it's no longer about me kind of like thinking about like who I want to win. I don't even think I care who wins, which is quite strange for me, because I normally like you know what I'm like at a show. Like, I cheer for someone and I know who I'm going to cheer for before the match starts, and I never ever do the thing of cheering for one person and then cheering for the other person. Like, I'm very much like, I know who I want to win the wrestling matches. I don't know who I want to win between Mills and Ethan Allen at all. I think what I care most about is I really want it to be prominently placed on the card. Like, in an ideal world for me, I want it to be the semi-main event. I want it to go on directly before Oku and Jacobs. I don't know if it will, because, you know, I'm not a booker. I don't know. I'm sure there are reasons why you wouldn't necessarily put those two matches on back to back, and obviously I don't know how the show's going to go. But I want it to be in a position where it gets the chance to be the most talked about match on the night, because I think it has the potential to. I have a feeling that we're probably going to flick between Copperbox and Southampton all throughout the pod, rather than do like a let's talk about Southampton for X amount of minutes and let's talk about Copperbox for Y amount of minutes. But something else I was thinking yesterday when we were watching the show, last year's Copperbox show, when you look at the card in hindsight, it was this, I think it had more stars on the card than it has this year.
Yeah,
like more kind of well-known, like round the world names. with like Shibata and Gabe Kidd and ELP just being in the mid card of a show, you know. But I feel like also it was like this really so I like writing the show program this week. I reread the program from last year, and I read Andy's bit at the start, and he said about how last year's was a celebration of 11 years of Revolution Pro Wrestling, a celebration of all the wrestlers, the moments, the matches. And I was like, that's exactly what last year's was.
Mm-hmm.
Because last year you had all people from Rev Pro's like present, future, and past, and you had all these wonderful exhibitions where people who don't know Rev Pro can turn up and be like, wow, this is a really cool product. But this year's one, I feel like, is a step above, because this year's like every single match has this really long running story behind why the match is happening. And it's not just a story of wrestler A and wrestler B are booked for a match, so they make a feud out of the fact that they're going to have a match. It's they're having a feud, so we need to pay it off somewhere. Where better than to pay it off than at the Copper Box?
Absolutely.
And I feel like the emotional investment for this year's Copper Box will be higher than last year's. And I suppose like my biggest hope now is that that emotional investment will be there for as many other people as possible.
Yeah,
and
I think
the stories that have been built get the love and attention from the fans that they deserve, because we know that they're going to get the love and attention from like the all of like the hardcore fans, all of the people that have booked the Copper Box who were there yesterday, all the people who have booked the Copper Box who are at the 229, who are in Sheffield. It always just comes down to, you know, the term that I hate a little bit, but it is true. Like those casual fans that you're trying to draw in, because we all started off being a casual fan who turned into a mark, turned into an obsessive fan. And it's just for me, it'll just be about whether or not those matches like Ethan and Connor, the work they do will draw that crowd in.
Yeah.
It's just, I suppose that's my anxiety now of hoping that they get the response from the crowd that their work's deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everything that you've touched on there is actually really fair assessment, because I'll be honest, last year I booked my ticket because Will and Shingo got announced, and I said I can't justify going to this show as well. It was too expensive. And that was kind of when I was on the border of keeping an eye on Rev Pro a bit more and watching more, going to the Southampton shows and going, yeah, I like the look of this. I'm going to watch more and more and more. But I wasn't watching on demand at the time. So I knew of things like the story between Oku and Trent Seven and stuff like that. And then Will and Shingo got announced. I was like, right, ticket paid, like going, absolutely going. This year, like you said, the stars don't feel quite as big, right? In the sense of Shingo. I mean, I know we've got Ishii back this year as well, but like these big names. And now you kind of, I mean, say that you've got Dijak, who a bit more left field than probably I expected, but has come in for a good bit. Mina Shirakawa, which great replacement for Stephanie Vicaire, and Hechicero, which I would say probably not on the same level as the other ones were, like in terms of like known before, maybe Fantastica Mania and stuff like that. That's how I know the guy. I saw him there and thought, this guy looks cool. He's got great size, and I love in lucha. I love big guys in lucha because it just doesn't feel right. But like you said, they now feel like they're the supporting cast. They're not the main draw, and I really think this is on the precipice of being the show that can really push Rev Pro to even another level. Because I think in this last year, they've gone up a level. Like, you look at the people who were maybe on shows 3 years ago, who aren't getting as much of a sniff now because Rev Pro is going up. The British scene is going up. More people are getting to come in because there's more shows. So it's competition for places. But we're seeing the women's division also being massively expanded. So that's creating even more competition for places on matches that would have been available. This show has the ability now to draw those people in, say, you came last year, the British guys are the main event this year, but look through that card. And I think I'm looking at the card now. I don't see one match at all where one of the people in it isn't from the UK. Like the UK is represented.
And also last year you had lots of stuff that was happening with Rev Pro, but you had a lot of kind of what we would see as like Rev Pro regulars who didn't manage to get on the card.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, like Greedy Souls, Sunshine Machine. There was lots of the women got involved with the pre-show match, and even it was seen as maybe like too early for a David Francisco or a Josh James or a Cameron Kai or the guys who were sort of not those like established top six of your Oku, Luke Jacobs, RKJ, Connor Mills, JJ Gal, Robbie X.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it's like there is a place and a story for every single regular Rev Pro wrestler.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always said trust in the process with Andy, as you've said. And this year, again, it just seems like he's been able to get his booking locked down to allow all that. And I think it's probably because there's more shows being booked now. Like he's got more opportunity to book more people and create more intricate stories. And like you've said once or twice before, it feels like in some towns, he's literally going, right, we'll leave these people off this one because we've got a long running story here. So not only you can doing your episodic content, but you're doing it from maybe one show to the next 2 shows instead of the next one, but you're also in that town creating the next episode for them as well. So yeah, it's looking really, really promising this year. Spike, we obviously have just waxed lyrical about the main event. You're someone that keeps an eye on the Welsh scene a bit more probably than I do. JJ Gale versus Jay Joshua. How was that for you?
Really, I didn't saw them. Really enjoyed that. It was obviously people know who Jay Joshua is, sort of the match at 229, but he just stole the show. And JJ Gale was the perfect person to put him up against. He's massive in Wales. He is the next big thing. It was great. It was great to see him. It was great because quite a few of the New Wave lads came down. It was nice to see them branching out and getting noticed. It was really nice. And the match was just fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Those forearm shots were loved it.
Yeah, it was the match of the 229 against RKJ was a really good match. It was in quite an enviable position, especially for Jay, because Jay was coming into Rev Pro debut match, and he goes on after that as Zazaya and Leon Slater opener. It was just that was a tough match, and he showed it there. But this match, again, I keep saying it, on another level for me. Like the styles just meshed really nicely, and that diving headbutt from him that I think all of us just lurched out of our seats at that point. We're just like, what has happened there? But yeah, for me, it's like between that and the main event, match of the night. And when you've got matches like that who are competing for being match of the night, and as Dave said as well, that was the main event was match of the night on a show that is going into his top shows of the year. We're really being spoiled with the level that we've got here. And Jay Joshua is someone that I want to see back massively.
100%. Like I saw him after the show and just kind of like just shared how much I enjoyed the match. And he said himself that from like having got over the nerves of like the debut, he felt loads more comfortable coming in today because he kind of felt like he'd done the awkward first introductions and was like into the second match. I feel like the pairing was really good because like Ricky always looks strong against anybody that he's wrestling, and like he gives people offense and he sells for them, but not at the same level that JJ does. Like that's kind of part of their of their style, and it's part of their character, and it's part of where they are on the card. So I think like Jay Joshua got loads more shine yesterday than he did in the 229. I think he also laid it in a lot thicker this time than he did the first time, which is kind of natural, because I think that's like, you get to know people. I mean, I saw him at the 229 chatting to Andy after the show, which like I think is something that I love to see, that when you see somebody new at the wrestling, because it's like, go and get feedback from the guy who booked you. Like go and listen to what they liked and what they didn't like, and like Spike said, with like the new wave lads that came over yesterday and were just there to like kind of, you know, chip in and do some like ring crew work. It's like, show that you want to be there, show that you want to be there, and show that you want to learn and get better and take on, you know, positives and negatives and all that valuable feedback. I feel like there's a really, really great position for Jay Joshua in Rev Pro. I feel like he is a little bit like Scotty Rourke, who I felt similar to, where they kind of fill a role that nobody else is. It's like Scotty Rourke is slimy heel cruiserweight. We don't really have that. We got Caven. Caven is a slimy heel cruiserweight. Although I did enjoy getting to cheer him yesterday. But Scotty Rourke is, and I know this sounds daft, but I do think it's really important in wrestling, especially when you are working like small shows where there are lots of people that don't go to everything. Scotty Rourke and Will Caven don't wrestle the same style, even though they've got the same kind of presentation. And also they look very different, so they fit in perfectly well there. In Rev Pro, you'd probably say Jay Joshua is most similar to Josh James, but in the same way, he's nothing like Josh James. Very different wrestler, very different kind of character and personality. But in terms of a big, like heavy set guy, that's probably the best comparison you can make. So it's like there's a really nice little gap there for him. Whereas when other people sometimes come in, you can look at them and think like, oh, they're really, really good, but they're basically going to do the exact same thing that we get from Robbie X or that we get from RKJ, and therefore it's quite difficult for them to kind of get their foot in the door, because it's like, well, there's already someone doing the exact thing you want to do here, but they're established. I would love to see Jay Joshua back on the regular.
Jay Joshua, the thing with him as well, he has this really unique thing where he can, during a match, twist. If he feels like he's going to get booed or he's not the baby face, he'll change it, but not overtly. He'll just change it. Like yesterday, it became he was the bully. He was getting cheered, but as soon as it got more JJ, he was the bully. He was keeping him on the floor. He was begging him to get up and fight him. It was and then he went straight back to being the lovable Jay Joshua. He's got such a unique character that he can do any of that. And he's going to be.
He's so likable, isn't he? Like,
he really is.
I don't know if it's like the kind of he's got kind of like that cheeky baby face good looks, and he's a bit like, I remember when Trent Seven is an odd example of someone else who's got that, where Trent can do something really dickish in a match and then just smile afterwards and be like, oh, you know, my bad, and you forgive him immediately. Like, I remember when he cheated to beat Charles Samuels the night that he attacked Michael Oku and ran off with the belt. He cheated to beat Charles Samuels in the opening match, and he walked past us on the ramp and just kind of like looked at us and was like, oh, boys, at my age, you know, anything for a win. And you're like, oh, go on then, Trent. We'll forgive you. And like, I feel like Jay Joshua's got where he can, I don't know what happened there. I'm just going to put my hand up in case we need to go back and edit that.
No, we're fine. Let's roll
both
with
disappeared
it. We're rolling.
Kicked me out and then put me back in. Jay Joshua's got that where he can turn up the aggression without turning the crowd against him.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree with that. And
but he could if he wanted to. That's
I also think that's there's a really nice segue there from what Spike just said into another match, because Will Caven worked as a babyface yesterday, right?
yeah, he did.
Like,
wow, 80%.
he came out the middle fingers in the air, flipping off the crowd heel. But once we gave him a little bit of love and were like cheering for him, which basically came from the fact that, you know, he was wrestling Eric Dillinger, who predominantly seems to like came out like a heel, presented himself like a heel.
Mm-hmm.
From what I'd seen online, kind of worked a heel a lot in America. So it was like, okay, let's. And in my theory that the main event was meant to be Destination Everywhere versus Young Guns, I feel like this was meant to be Eric Dillinger versus Isaiah. And that when Isaiah took Mills's place, Caven's coming in here, which is why we kind of got a heel versus heel match. But what I liked was they both came out to the ring as heels, and then once the crowd was split between them, they both softened.
Yeah.
And they both started to work the babyface. And there were times when like Caven's like reaching out to the crowd in response to being hit with moves, and you're like, I just sat there thinking like, babyface Will Caven, I'm well up for that. Like, I'm well here for it. I feel like I know it's a really delicate comparison to make, and it's one that I think would always probably be quite a hard one for him to deal with in his career because of who he is. But there are a lot of similarities between Will Caven and James Castle. And James Castle, for me, did his best work as a babyface. And I think Caven could be an amazing babyface as well. I suppose it's kind of getting the balance right between him being his own wrestler as well as having these huge similarities to Castle, and it not being what like New Japan had with Ren Narita and Shibata, where it was a bit like, is he his own man or is he just a Shibata clone, which kind of led to Ren Narita joining the House of Torture. Although I don't, you know, the level of spotlight that's on New Japan is not the same as the level of spotlight that's on Rev Pro. So I feel like he'd be able to do it without necessarily those comparisons being so obvious, and without people like rejecting it like Ren Narita got kind of rejected when he came back from America.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, any chance for you to get to cheer Will Caven, you're going to grab it. Like, as soon as the opportunity came up. I really enjoyed that match yesterday a lot. And Will Caven is another one for me that feels like all the pieces are now coming together really, really nicely. Like, again, you can see the progression. And I say that a lot about a lot of people, but you can just see month after month, like the improvements that they're making, where they're feeling just that bit tighter in the ring. And that's kind of one of the things I've always felt about Will Caven when I've seen him, was that at times it didn't feel as tight as it could be. And that's kind of where I was like, now I'm saying this is someone who's never been in the ring, okay? So I'm saying this purely as a watcher. And mad respect for what these guys do. But yesterday just felt, I don't know, everything just felt that bit stiffer and a bit more cinched in, a bit more snug, all of that. And working the babyface as well, like you said, which is just such an odd concept for him. And it worked. It really worked. And like you said, as long as they can find a way, if they do go down that route, to keep him his own man and stay true to, like, you can't have Will Caven coming out and being like all happy-go-lucky. Like, you have to find still find his level. But that would be such a fun thing to play around with and have in the back pocket, so that they can test the waters and almost have him ready. So if they do want to flip that, then you're flipping the cruiserweight division on its head, right? Because he's one of the, as you often say, the spoiler of the cruiserweight division. What if the spoiler isn't the spoiler anymore and he's one of the baby faces on that side? Interesting times. So what else did we have on that card?
We had two wonderful Sunshine Machine singles matches.
Yeah, you know what? I
heard you cheering for Chuck Mambo.
I was. guys, right? It's funny. I'm gonna reenact it, right? This happened twice in the night. Once was in this match, and once was in the main event, because Dave alluded to it earlier. He said, "I know who I'm cheering for. I'm cheering for one person." Whereas me, I couldn't make a decision last night. So as soon as Young Guns come out, I was Luke, and Michael Oku's coming out. I'm like, Michael Oku, like I couldn't. I don't care. I was both of these guys, and I'm torn about the main event at the Copper Box, but. Both times, especially I was cheering for Chuck Manbert. Like I've said, not the biggest Sunshine Machine fan, but I couldn't have David Francisco, that little weasel, getting cheered.
Whereas you were on one side of me, and sitting on the other side of me was Spike.
Yeah.
You seem to quite enjoy Mr. Francisco.
I could talk for hours about David Francisco because
someone has to.
Like, Southampton's always liked Francisco because he was a lovable contender. But when he turned heel and did the heel promo at Southampton, there was, granted, like 5, 6 of us that decided, nah, we're still going to cheer him. And he's taking that lightning in a bottle, and he just has so much fun. And you can't watch that back and not enjoy David Francisco's performance. It was so like unironic and so genuine that he sold so much merch off the back of that match.
Yeah,
because he was.
I've never seen so many David Francisco t-shirts being worn anywhere before.
It was like they all watched him and went, "This is obviously the biggest star in RevPro. We must go and see David Francisco." I loved it. And he's a saint of St Mary's, so.
Do you know one of the things? Like, it's such a small detail, but one thing that I really love was how Francisco's music came on, and Santos came out, and you actually heard like an audible kind of sigh of being like, "Oh, we thought we were getting our favourite Francisco," and then he kind of like looked at the crowd, and then Francisco came out, and he got such a pop, and it was like. What is going on? Like, I love how he has just fully embraced it, and how like what with all the announcements he made Francesca give him. He was was patron saint of St Mary's.
Yep, he was the prodigal son of Southampton.
The home away from home from home.
Yeah.
Just like it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible, and I felt like the match was really good as well. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely, and
the same with the TK Cooper and Golden Boy Santos match. I think from what I really liked, the last time. So there's 2 times I can recall. I don't know if there's more. There's 2 times I can recall where they've done this, where they've had a member of Sunshine Machine work one half of another tag team. So they had each TK and Mambo work a Lycos gym, Shipwolf, in St Neots a couple of years ago. And they had them work Jude London and Paris De Silva of the Velocities. And in those matches, like they were really good, but they were quite similar matches. So like I can't remember who was partnered with who, but let's say it was TK versus Paris and Jude versus Mambo. The 2 matches, although they're all each their own wrestlers and they've got their own movesets, they weren't drastically apart. Whereas yesterday, I felt like the 2 matches were massively apart because Francisco and Chuck did a lot of the kind of the comedic side of it. And a lot of the shithousery side of it. So you had the ring spot that Francisco did on Mambo. You had Francisco literally like wankering him off to behind the referee's back and getting TK ejected and Santos being around like a menace. Like there was all of that going on. And I thought in the second match we'd get probably a lot of the same, which I was a bit worried about because I thought it might just feel a bit repetitive. But actually, like TK and Santos then just came out and effectively worked like a proper hoss fight and just battered the shit out of each other.
So
like,
good.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was my favourite Golden Boy Santos match that I've seen so far. It's the third. He's had 4 singles matches in Rev Pro. I didn't see the one in Barcelona. I go all over the country, but I haven't yet got to the point where I go all over Europe. But I saw Josh James in Sheffield and RKJ in the 229, and then yesterday with TK, and I thought that was by far the best of the 3 matches. Again, like we said about Jay Joshua and JJ Gale, the marriage between the 2 wrestlers just worked really, really well, in the sense that TK could be the fighting from underneath babyface, which meant that Golden Boy just looked like an absolute beast, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, I can't remember who it was, or if maybe it wasn't even somebody that we know, but I heard someone say something before where they were like, this guy could be like world champion. Like, and I was just sort of like, do you know what? Like he looks like a world champion. He looks like a Wardlow, like an absolute world beater. And what I liked was the fact that his offense matched it. Everything just looked like it hurt so much and was stiff. And I always think stiff's a weird word to use, because I have no idea if it was stiff or not. Maybe it was as gentle as a petal, but it looked like it hurt.
Yeah.
And that's like the mastery of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it took my breath away at times. And, you know, where you have those audible gasps of like, oh my God, like, and that it got the coveted 4th spot. And I'm really glad, and it lived up to that spot.
I wasn't sure. Go on, Spike.
The perfect part of it all was that how they paced it. Like, we're not bookers, but you give us Francisco, because Andy knows. He's not stupid. He knows what's going to happen. We got it all out. And we got the fun match. And then Golden Boy and TK just come out. Right, we've got all that out of the way. Let's go beat the shit out of each other. And Golden Boy is something else. But I know I'll wax lyrical about David Francisco, but Golden Boy had probably the performance of the night as a sort of standout performance, I reckon. And TK was obviously amazing, but Golden Boy looked like an absolute star coming out of that match.
He really did. Like, such a big guy, isn't he? And just like you said, you could see him put on like on an AEW or a WWE poster tomorrow and go, that guy fits in with everything. Like, he's just got. Look, I don't like using this word because it's such a memed word on Twitter now that people use to talk about wrestling, but he has aura. Like, he really does. He commands a room when he walks in. And realistically, what does he do? He wears a balaclava, and that's it, right? He just has that look about him. And yeah, both matches, I'm loving David Francisco. Like, since that heel turn, which I didn't see coming whatsoever, when he turned and just the whole centerpiece thing, it's just been so good. And like I said, you can see again, he's feeling more comfortable, and the entertainment side, the character work, and that's how he's setting himself apart. Because you've got all these people who are, again, great in the ring, and he's very good in the ring as well, but he's making himself a character, and he's making you find that way to get emotion out of you. If you're in Southampton, look at what he did to all the regulars. And like I said, that merch table, that is Francisco country. But then you go elsewhere,
he's
and he's got people booing.
Undeniable, isn't he? Like, you can't leave him off. We can't leave him off a card now, or you can't kind of have him just plodding along, having a few singles matches whilst we wait for the next story. Like, you think what he's wrapped up in at the moment, he's got his issues with Josh James.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like in a singles route. Then he's also he injured and put Shah Samuels on the shelf. Then Shah and Josh have teamed up, so you've also got that tag rivalry with him and Santos. Mm-hmm. And then you've also got the like Youngblood stuff from where it was where Yuta Nakashima came back to Rev Pro from injury, wasn't it? At Raw Deal in Stevenage, where and it turned into their street fight. Like, there's loads going on with them, and I can only assume. I mean, we're recording this we're recording this Monday night. At this point, we have the full card announced for the Copbox, but we know there's going to be a pre-show match. We don't know what the pre-show match is, but it's got to be this, isn't it? It's got to be these guys.
Yeah.
It's got to be some kind of four on, like 2 versus 2 versus 2 tag match, or an 8-man with all of those 3 tag teams we just talked about, and Greedy Souls, because Greedy Souls are also embroiled in a feud with Shah and Josh James, and embroiled in a feud with Youngblood. So there's loads, and I love that. Like, you just think like Josh James and David Francisco worked the Copperbox last year as contenders. They were being handed people's ring jackets, and this year they're gonna open the show. Yeah. They're going to be the first match that everybody sees. They're going to be the first people to come out at the show. Like, that's, like, I love that.
Yeah,
it's for me, it's one of the reasons why, if you were a professional wrestler, you'd want to work for RevPro, surely.
Yeah.
Because you can see the progression from how can I get from working every Friday and Saturday night, or like every Sunday afternoon, however many bookings you can get in a weekend, whilst also working like Monday to Friday and whatever real job you've got.
Mm-hmm.
How can I get from here to wrestling in front of 1,000 people at your call, to wrestling in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people at the Copperbox, to getting to wrestle for a Royal Quest or a Fantastica Mania, to getting to go out to Japan, to go out to AEW, to go out to CMLL? Like Robbie X is fucking tearing it up in Mexico right now, isn't he?
Yeah,
like,
he really is.
Like, literally every day I see a new picture of him, and it was like today, it was like him and Rocky Romero posing together from like a tag match. Crazy. And you're like, this is absolutely amazing. Like, I'm well excited for all of that. The Greedy Souls and Shah Samuels and Shah Samuels and Josh James match I really enjoyed as well. Said it a few times today, kind of letting out my kind of inner love for the male form, but good Lord, Brendan White looks absolutely jacked, doesn't he? Like his new workout regime is working wonders for him. Like, he looks in incredible shape. Like, Danny Jones always looks like he's in incredible shape, but like, it just, like, they looked absolutely mint yesterday, and I've really missed Greedy Souls in Rev Pro. I think they're just such. I mean, I've said it loads of times before that I think they're the best heel tag team in Europe. They're just ridiculous. Like, they're the communication in the ring, the way that, like, it's so, everything about it is just so believable that these two are like working together to beat another tag team, and not just going out there and calling spots in the ring together. And I love that about that. I really liked Josh James and David Francisco. I thought, sorry, that's twice I said that. Josh James and Shah Samuels as a tag team. I thought that was really nice. And it was a little callback, wasn't it, to the Revolutionists of Shah Samuels and James Castle. I'm interested to see where that goes. I bet, Spike, you must have been very happy to see your beloved Greedy Souls in Rev Pro.
I mean, look at the hat, for one. I know, it was really nice to see you back. Like I said, they both look like carved out of granite. Whatever they're doing is working. And I agree, they are the best heel tag team in Europe. I've always said I think Danny Jones is the most underrated wrestler in the country. Technically, like, I mean, you've heard me call him the Buff Bret Hart, but I just think everything he does is crisp. Character-wise, Brendan's got it down. Like, he'd have to pop he got for knocking that contender out. Like,
oh mate, like that, absolutely. Like, it just like the noise in the ring. I think there was so much confusion because I didn't see it.
We thought it was Kid.
I thought that a fan had kind of like pushed them, like, pushed it too far, or maybe somebody had had a few too many tinnies and was sort of like, getting in his face, and you just shoved him out of the way. But No, yeah, they know how to get a reaction, don't they? Like always. I've never heard a quiet Greedy Souls match.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
No, they just have it, don't they? They have that ability. And Dave, I don't know what you're on about. Southampton is not the place where people overindulge on alcohol. That's never happened in Southampton ever. Yeah. So if you're wondering what we might be alluding to, why that's got such a prop, just maybe watch the stream and see if you can pick out. And I'm just gonna give one spoiler for those of you who know him. It's not Tom. Anyway.
Watch the stream, but don't watch the wrestling. Watch the fans.
Yeah, watch the fans. Do 2 watch-alongs. Yeah, Greedy Souls. Look, I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed Brendan White and every guise that I've ever seen him in there. Like, I think he might. I was thinking this yesterday. I was watching. Aside from Michael Oku, is probably the wrestler I've seen most in that venue. I'd have to go back and have a look. But over the years that I've been going, I mean, when I first went there, I saw Brendan White teaming with. Well, I don't know if it was Contender or Young Boy, whatever, but Gabe Kidd. That was the first time I saw him. Then the next time I saw him, it was Brendan White and Doug Williams as a team as well.
Yep.
Then obviously you got Greedy Souls. So like I've seen him under a lot of different ways, and like I've seen this big hulking babyface, almost very reminiscent of what Josh James is now. I've seen that Brendan White, and then Spike, you nailed it with the character work. He's so good at that. He is absolutely brilliant. And I kind of liken it back to looking at Stevenage. My dad, one of the top acts of the night for him was Ricky Knight Jr. and it was Greedy Souls. They were the two top acts of the night for him. Yeah. He loved them. And that's it, because they have this ability to be so broad with what they do, because they're not like this real niche trying to hone in on something. They know what works. They know how to get people going. They know how to get the emotion. But when it comes time to actually get in there and do it, they do it well. And I was like, this could be one of 2 things, this match. And it was one where everyone just found their groove with each other so easily. Great character work. The little bits that you mentioned, Dave, about the work between Shah and Josh. And it was great, because not only was I watching, I had Dave just in my ear, just sprinkling little bits, going this bit and this bit, like sprinkling little bits of Road Pro history in my ear, which actually, like, in the context of watching it, was so good, because I was like, oh, okay. And then you mentioned like Shah, maybe not talking down to Josh, but he was giving that veteran advice. Let's put it that way.
He was working. He was in charge when he was the captain of the team.
Absolutely. But then you saw a bit where Josh then went back on him, and I was like, oh, but then based on what Dave's told me 5 minutes ago, could this be a switch? And like, my brain goes into overdrive with possibilities. That's what I love about anything. I'm like, this could go down this stream, it could go down this stream. And I don't book myself into a corner and go, no, this is the only way, even if I still think I still thought as of last week, the Sunshine Machine match, a double pin would have worked well. But even then, it's like, okay, how this turned out at Southampton is brilliant. So, like, trust the process. But that tag match worked really well. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier as well, Dave, about like the different stories that Francisco's got going on, one that we've not even said, but technically could have going on, and this could lead into like the Copper Box. One of the main reasons Brendan White is taking out frustration on Josh James is Contender. So does he then avert his attention to David Francisco as well, even though it would be heel versus heel? So could that cause issues in the match? What I think this pre-show match, which, well, I say pre-show as if it's happening, like, it looks like that's the likely one, doesn't it? I think what's going to come out of this is not just going to be a throwaway, get all these guys on the card. I think this match is going to form the basis of the tag league and actually generate the stories going into that. That's where I think we go with this. And then you have 2 of the teams on each side, a couple more teams flesh it out, and that's tag league this year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you think you got 4 teams there. There's normally 8 teams in the tag league.
Yes.
So, like, I still, when we did our kind of fantasy booking for what if Oku retains, if he's still there, I don't know what the situation there is, but I would love to see Oku and either Oku and Mills be in it, would be what I love the most. But if that doesn't work for storyline, have Oku and Zazaya in there, and have Young Guns in there as a way of kind of continuing all of the rivalries and feuds without them having to directly beat Oakham and Jacobs, because whoever's got the championship can then have a feud with somebody else. And then you've got 2 spots to, bring in like a CPF or I don't know, like take your pick of tag teams that we've had kind of come through, whether that is if Subculture are fit and they're going to be back, if it's going to be, if the vets are going to be hanging around, if we pull in a team out of thin air like last year, the Billington Bulldogs, kind of just, I'd never heard of them, if I'm honest, just kind of appeared, and True and Lacey did. I mean, True and Lacey have got to be in the tag, surely, like they've worked their socks off to go from who are these 2 lads that are in the tag league to, I think I've seen them both about 15 times now. But that just kind of goes to show how often they've managed to get rebooked. But would it be a chance to get somebody like, I always think back to Act 2, a team that I always think of, because when I first started going to, I think it's probably like, I don't know, my 10th Rev Pro show or something like that. I went to Birmingham and Act 2 were booked. And I remember just sitting there thinking like, oh my God, these 2 skinny little lads are going to get murdered and eaten alive by greedy souls. And actually they wrestled this really entertaining match out of it, from being like the 2 smaller guys working against the 2 big kind of bullies. And then, so I kind of just followed them on social media ever since, and like they look like they've come on leaps and bounds, and they're getting, they're working like all over the place as singles wrestlers and as a team. I'd love to see them back in Rev Pro at some point. Or I always like the idea of people being put together for the tag league. It's a bit of what they do in Japan, where like Jake Lee and Gabe Kidd look like they're going to go into the tag league together this year. Yeah, and it's like they're both Bullet Club War Dogs, but we've never seen them tag together before. Like that's quite cool. I'd love to see Robbie X get paired with somebody, like a team of like Robbie X and Cameron Kaya, because it's one of those things where like they could be paired together and go into it and not be very successful in the tag league, but that could also add some story to and lead to another match between them. There's always stuff you can do for these competitions. It's not just about who comes out as the winner, is it? It's about all the little details that get you there.
That's it. Team that I'd like to see in Tag League this year is Barcelona Blacklist. I thought they were phenomenal on that show that we saw from Barcelona, and I want to see more. And everyone that kind of in the industry who was talking about the event before that came up, that's the team they were talking about, and that's the act they were talking about. Going, watch these guys; it's going to be great. Spike, how about
is there anybody from the New Wave shows, Spike, that you think would come over and do a good job?
Yeah. So when I was in Newport, the Freshness were quite good. They have an injury. I don't know if you know who they are, but they're quite an interesting little team. And they went against.
Not familiar. I've heard you talk about them before, but I'm not familiar with them as a team.
So the match they had against the Souls is kind of comedy, but also like they could go where they needed to go, and it was really good fun. So they'd be really fun to put against the Josh James and the Sar Sanders, because they got that vibe, that character. But I'd have Harrison Bennett back, put him in Wild Boar, have some Welsh representation in there. Or like, if I'm going to really grab someone out of New Wave, I'd get young Leon Cage and Jay Joshua getting together. Because then you got the little high flyer and big man Jay Joshua. That they would be really good as a team.
I always feel like with people like Leon Cage, like I'm familiar. I've never seen a Leon Cage match because I like exclusively watch Rev Pro AEW in New Japan. That's how I split my wrestling time. But when someone like a Leon Cage gets all this buzz about him, which he has done sort of like kind of between like you talking about him and Sharon talking about him when she goes over to watch, like obviously go over to watch Welsh shows, like literally cross the road to watch Welsh shows for her. Like he's someone that I've been like kind of following online sounds weird. Following online, like just to kind of.
He's 17, Dave.
Yeah, it sounds proper predatory stalker, doesn't it? I've been watching him online. So yeah, I followed his career. Let's say that I followed his career for the last 6 months. But I always kind of feel like there's an inevitability with anyone in the country for any promotion who gets a bit of hype behind them. It's like they'll get to Rev Pro, 100%. Like Leon Cage will wrestle for Rev Pro at some point probably in the next like 12 months, possibly even sooner than that, given that he was at the show on Sunday. But it was the same with like Jet Marshall. When like there was quite a lot of hype about him and Leon Slater. I think it was the North Wrestling. And you just sort of like, okay, at some point he's going to come to Rev Pro. Man like DeReese was another one where it was like everyone's talking about it, and I'm like, I'll wait for him to come. He'll come to Rev Pro. Jay Joshua, I'll wait for him to come to Rev Pro. I feel like that would be a really good introduction. Yeah, I think it's another thing that like suddenly, where is a tag division come from? It feels like the Rev Pro. If we were gonna do, maybe we will do like a podcast on sort of like the wins and losses of Rev Pro this year, like things that have gone really well and things that could have gone better. The tag division has probably not been a strength for the last few months. We've had plenty of tag matches, but it doesn't feel like there's been a tag division. And then suddenly, in the last few weeks, we're like, actually, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, and it's all been quite subtle as well. It's not been like hammering overhead. Okay, we realised tag matches in, like we're building a division. Like it's just coming nicely. So it's felt really organic and really built up. Like when you actually sit and take stock of it, and you go, all right, we've got Golden Boy and we've got Dave Francisco as a team there. We've got that link for Shara and Josh James. We've got the Souls back in. We've got all these guys coming in, and I love like the ones that Spike's mentioned there, because Leon Cage. I won't profess to know much about him other than a lot of hype around him. And then for me, what it kind of was, it was Fightful sharing that clip, that everyone's seen that clip of the movie Does on the Rope. And then it was also Don Callis, like taking a bit, throwing a bit of shade in his way. I was like, right, that's when you know the guy's starting to get buzz. And it's like, it just felt like this, again, this really nice sort of thing. So he will be in Rev Pro for sure. From what I've heard of him and his style, I think that paired nicely with Jay Joshua as well. And it would be quite nice if you could like have most of your teams predominantly from the UK again, right? You've got all these teams that are homegrown, loads of Rev Pro teams. These guns that could come in and are not come in to do like the one shots or coming over for a bit and then going off else. Well, hopefully they go off elsewhere to go and achieve great things, of course. But like they could just very easily go, right, you were in the tag league. The Billington Bulldogs are the odd example that it felt like they were in just for this, then they were gone. Like, although I found that they were based in England, which is also really weird that they just kind of appeared and went. But it's the opportunity for people to make a name for themselves, and that's the difference.
Yeah,
Billington Bulldogs, I thought were very good. I enjoyed probably Tommy Billington more, and go and see what he's achieving now as a singles guy probably lends itself very well to how he did there. True and Lacey.
Just think about the fact that we're going to see that lad wrestle Chris Jericho on Wednesday.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure if you'd seen. I wasn't sure if you'd seen Collision or not on Sunday, so I didn't want to mention it to
Sunday,
you.
I got up. I watched Collision at about 7 a.m. I skipped all the G1 multi-man matches because I knew I wouldn't get time to watch them all and get to Southampton. So I watched Collision, then I watched Zach win the G1, and then I drove to Southampton for the wrestling, and then got home at like 1 a.m. and I'm ready for my bed now.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, it was like that guy is like achieving already, and great for him. But I think in the tag league, you had that possibility for someone to do that, and that's what True and Lacey did. And I really hope like that Rev Pro could carry on using them, because they are so wonderful at what they do. And one of my most underrated matches, and I think it was this year. It might have been last year, but it was Michael Oku, shock, versus Mark True, singles match in Southampton. Because that was it. Because I remember sitting up on the stage, and I said to my wife, the reason we sit on the stage is she doesn't like the idea of the wrestlers coming flying towards her. Understandable, okay? So that's why we sit up on the stage, because the wrestlers won't come anywhere near us. And not only that, when we were up on the stage, we were on the second row on the stage. And of course, Oku and Mark True came up there and fought, and like a suplex landed right down in front of my feet, and it was just like, ah. So no, so great. But really,
that was my first
opportunity. Nice, yeah. So I mean, that was one where I was like, this seems such a random match, but it went great, and I really hope those lads can come back in. And to round out Southampton, actually, while we're on it, speaking of tag teams, we had Kanji and Rio versus the Cutthroat Collective. And this was the one for me beforehand. I was like, what's the purpose of this match? Okay. We're so close to the copper box. It feels like after the end of Summer Sizzler, like that put in a really good spot. So why do we have this tag match here? And you'll find this a lot with me. Like, I'll be going, I'm not sure on this. Like, why? But that's probably part of my inquisitive brain anyway. But again, trust in what Andy does. Just to kind of add to what you said earlier, Dave, the women of Rev Pro have never really had a vast quantity of opportunities to have multiple matches across the show. Okay. I've listened to podcasts with Andy going back to 2018, 2019, whenever that podcast was. And his stance was always the same. He said, I'm not booking them in a way because they're women. Like, they have to be as strong as the other competitors on the show. They have to earn the spot. And it's like, okay, right, understand that. But also, you kind of have to give people the spot for them to be able to learn how to perform in that spot, because you can have them in a certain venue and certain type of crowd all the time, but until they're given that opportunity, they can't do it. These girls, right? I've got the card up now, actually, from the show last year. Looking at it, you've got your world champ, or who's the world champion now, winning the pre-show battle royal, and in there you've got Mercedes Blaze, you've got Rio, you've got Sapphire Reed, right? 3 of those women are now in one of the most highly anticipated matches on the card. They are some of the most over people in Rev Pro. Like, the CTC has captured the imagination of everyone, because what all these different women bring, all their unique stuff, they're all very different on both teams. Very, very different. Bring very different things, very different looks, very different styles, but they all work. And whether it's looking at that group and going, Lizzie and Sapphire look like they'd be a great tag team together, and I could see them work, and then they get brought in as a tag team. It's like amazing. Like, that's really cool. Seeing Kanji and Rio as a pairing as well. It's like they are 2 very different types of wrestlers, very different types of look. I love this. I thought this match was so good, and how they ended it, building it up to the no DQ match, basically. So that's why they brought this up. And it was like, okay, cool, love that.
I thought Kanji and Rio looked sensational and just looked like absolute, like they got the response from the crowd of being absolute stars, and Sapphire and Lizzie got just like absolutely like so much heat. Yeah. Like, fuck off, Lizzie, fuck off, being shouted at her whilst there are children sitting with their mums and dads. Like, but also it was like, I really enjoyed this match for so many like different reasons, to stuff that we've talked about from the other matches. Like, it wasn't necessarily like a technically like incredible match that was one of my favorite on the card, because of all these wonderful kind of like spots that they did. Like, that's not why I loved this. It was it was kind of seeing all the hard work that everybody's put in coming together in one match. Because like Sapphire Reed, she was like the MVP of that match.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even from like her wrestling. It was from the shit she was saying. It was from the facial reaction she was giving. It was from all the character work that she was doing. It's like in the last 6 months, she has developed 6 years worth of experience. Like that is just absolutely like such incredible growth as a performer. Lizzie has just walked in and just she's literally walked in, put her suitcase down and been like, I own this place now.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody has just responded accordingly. Like, she feels like, I don't remember a time in Rev Pro where we didn't have Lizzie Evo now. And I never want to contemplate a time where we don't have her. Like, she is absolutely, I find her intimidating and terrifying as a performer to watch. Because we'll heckle her, she'll look at me, and I'll literally just be like, oh shit.
She stares right through you, doesn't she?
Whoops. I fucked up. Like, she's just got, like, we said the word earlier, and it's become a bit of a cliche online, isn't it, the word aura, but she really does have an aura about her.
Yeah, Lizzie
Kanji has
Evo.
just grown. Like, the Kanji that I first got introduced to 2 years ago was this, and this is going to sound patronizing, I don't mean it to be. It was like that was the character she was working. She was like this timid, work from underneath babyface wrestler. And now she's this like confident technical master who still generally wrestles from underneath, but it's with confidence and prowess. And I mean, if there was one woman in Rev Pro who hasn't, I mean, like Danny's different because Danny like literally has worked, I don't know, like 25, 30 TNA matches this year. Like, she's been on TV like loads.
Yeah.
But if there was one woman and somebody was to come in and say, right, send us the best woman here who is ready made to go on TV. Like, she'll look like a TV wrestler. She'll know how to generate the reactions from the crowd that a TV wrestler will get. And she just has that like immediate star power. It would be Rio for me. Like, I could just see her walking out on AEW or in WWE or, you know, literally wherever, and not needing the direction and the agenting and the help to kind of step up.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? Like, to be fair, like, you know, that sounds like she's like this level above everybody else there, but you think actually, like, I could see all of them. I could see all those women. You could see, like, you know, like Nina Samuels, Lizzie Evo, like they're all like, I mean, Nina obviously had, like, she worked at NXT UK. Lizzie did some work for NXT UK, but like, you could see them on, like, they're as important to Rev Pro, these women, for me now, as any of the men at the top of the card.
Absolutely.
And one of my anxieties has been that we're going to build this match at the Copper Box, we're going to break them up at the Copper Box, and that's going to be the end of the Cutthroat Collective. And we'll go back to having a women's match on the show, occasionally 2 women's matches on the show, but you've lost the spirit of the division, which has basically been formed around relationships between wrestlers. When you think about the men's division, like, literally pick any 2, like, in your head now, pick any 2 men in Rev Pro, any 2 men who are near the top of the card, and then think about the history they have between each other, and think about the relationships that they have between each other. And there's something there for everybody. Mm-hmm. Whether you go for the obvious and you go Jacobs and Oku, or whether you go for Robbie X and JJ Gown, or Luke Jacobs and Robbie X, or RKJ and Connor Mills. Like, there's stuff there between all of them. But until this year, there wasn't that for the women. There was like Alex Windsor and Kanji have history together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. You look at Alex Windsor, all her championship defences, they were generally just, exhibition matches with a one-off opponent who maybe worked a couple of shows to get a title shot, or was just imported in to work a title shot.
Yeah.
And now it feels like this should be the start. This shouldn't be the copper box. Shouldn't be the destination. The copper box should just be one of the steps on the start of this division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree a lot on that. Spike, I'd like to chuck to you, mate. What do you think about the point that Dave just mentioned about the Cutthroat Collective? Do you foresee a situation where they do split, or do you think that this is just going to push on further?
Well, I think it's going to stay. I mean, what I really enjoyed about the match yesterday was, it wasn't surprise is the wrong word, but it was the level of attention it got and the heat it got was high. It was like proper. People were shouting Team Red Pro, and they were hating Sapphire Reed. I mean, we were shouting Sapphire's dickhead at one point. Like, it was just guttural and natural to wear, and it was so nice to see that. Like, it sounds very patronising, but we haven't had that level at Southampton for a women's match because we haven't been given a reason to be like that for a women's match. So you cannot, in my opinion, split the night. You can't split them up because they're so good. You can go so many ways with them. They can all have their own views and come back, and you can have a tag team match with Sapphire and Lizzie, and then you can have a single. There's so many ways you can go if you're willing to put the effort in and book a really strong women's division. You have 5 ready-made heels.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. And use them.
talk
about stories there afterwards. What if they then decide to run a Queen of the Ring this year? And then the Cutthroat Collective you could play a story, go, right, well, a couple of you can qualify, or you just do it so they have you've got stories there. I think one of the points that we like to say a lot when we go to Southampton is we notice how loud the shows are getting. And we say often, like, is it because there's a lot of us who now are starting to feel comfortable around each other? We're comfortable with like not being those lone voices anymore, cheering, making noise. Because I know at wrestling shows I can get a bit like, oh, I don't want to be that lone voice in there, and that's happening. But also, is it just that reason that with the stories, as Dave alluded to earlier, we're being given so many more stories with much more intricate beats? Not that we didn't get that before, but we maybe had 2 or 3 of those big stories, whereas now everything seems to have that story attached. It has that heat attached. We're being given those reasons to care. And I don't think it's patronising at all to say, Spike, we've never, like you said, we've had the tokens women's matches, and that's been about it. Whereas now the women's matches feel like a lot of heat in there, a lot going on. We've got stuff that doesn't really affect the title here as well. But we're giving those women the chance to, again, grow, get to know the Rev Pro audience, people to know them. Liz Evo is the perfect example of, I don't realise until I go and speak to that woman face to face, and it's going to sound really patriotic, but how short she is. And what I mean by that is, with how she looks and how she carries herself, she feels like she's 6'1", 6'2". Like, she just feels like this huge human being. And she's not. She's quite a small woman, probably about the same sort of height as I am, which I'm quite a small guy. But when you are there watching her in the ring, she grows that confidence. Sapphire Reed, you see her at her merch desk, and she just looks like just a young woman. But when she's in that ring, she feels big, and she's got that presence about her. They just carry themselves in such a way. The confidence that Kanji has, that Rio has. That's what I really like, is that they just have this ability to go, I can stand up there and give that aura of the biggest guys on the card, your Zazayas, your Okus, your Ricky Knight Juniors, Jacobs, all of them, and stand as peers alongside them. So I want to see this continue. So
Nightshade looked awesome as well when she came out, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Nightshade, they built her up really well as well.
She came out because there's always been like, I don't want them to forget that Nightshade was one of the guys who came in and smashed them all up in the 229. I don't want it to just be like, oh, we forget give you now for, you jumped on Francesca. Like, I don't want that to, but at the same time, they're desperate, right? And an enemy of them, enemy is my friend. Bloody hell, I'm tired. That philosophy works really well here, and I feel like there's some fun to be had at the Copper Box with how much they can trust Nightshade, and I feel like that they can trust her. Like, she got properly turfed out by them, but just to show a little bit of kind of hesitancy, even if it isn't like, which side is she on, it's more just a case of, I don't like you, but I'll work with you tonight because it's for the greater good. What you said about the about the Queen of the Ring, sorry, like, Andy's obviously a big New Japan fan, hence them working together for so long. Something that I love that they do in New Japan is they don't shy away from booking people who are in the same faction to have to wrestle against each other in competitions.
Mm-hmm.
And then you always get you kind of get 3 different variations of that match. So if you think of it, when it's like, if it was Nina versus Lizzie, say, booked as in a knockout tournament for Queen of the Ring, they could go into it as, I'm a badass, you're a badass. Let's beat the shit out of each other and have a glass of wine afterwards, and go on. You can then have what if it's like Alex Windsor and Sapphire, and it's a little bit of a kind of bully Alex Windsor, kind of patronizing Sapphire a little bit, and them still leaving together happily, but it being like, you just showed that there's a pecking order. For the first time, we've seen that the Cutthroat Collective on a like perfectly balanced, harmonious team of 5 peers. Alex Windsor sees Sapphire Reed as a notch below her. She is like her, a bit like Jericho and Sammy Guevara. From the Inner Circle days. And then the other one you can have is if and I don't think they'd do this in the Cutthroat Collective, because there isn't somebody to do it with unless you did it with Sapphire, but I don't think it would help Sapphire at all unless you were going to turn her babyface at some point, which is the expectation that someone lays down for the other person. So whenever it was like in New Japan, whenever it was like G1, and it would be like Evil versus Yujiro Takahashi when they were in Bullet Club together, and it would just be like, Yujiro just has to lay down for Evil.
Yeah.
Because Evil's the top dog here. Yujiro's just a lackey. He's just Bullet Club's bitch.
Yeah.
Lay down. Give him the 2 points for the win. And invariably they'd never actually do it, and then they'd have a little like kind of comedy scrap, and the top dog would win. But like, my point, I suppose, is there's fun to be had here.
Absolutely, yeah. There's
a lot of different permutations. They need to shy away from.
No, I'm with you. One of the interesting things you said there actually was about babyface Sapphire Reed, and while I'm having a lot of fun with her as she is, recently attended the Pro Wrestling Chaos show where Sapphire was full on babyface, which took me by surprise a little bit.
Seen that.
So it was babyface Sapphire Reed versus condescending heel Lucia Lee, which was the oddest, with everything going on right now. And that's it, isn't it? It's the part of the, I think I might have mentioned to you before about this sort of thing, and you said the same to me, that when you start crossing the streams of British promotions, you start to see a lot of weird shit going down in terms of like, well, wait a minute, in this promotion, you're on the same team, and here you're fighting. So it's that suspension of disbelief a little bit. It's all alternate universes, but she has that in her that she can have this like real babyface fire to her. She's been in Rev Pro a year, right? Her first Rev Pro appearance, I'm sitting looking at Cage Match, I thought surely she must have been in Rev Pro before that, but she's been wrestling for 3 years. On Cage Match, she has 97 documented matches, which let's say that's the majority of like where you get those really small first shows out of the way with. But
Yeah,
you look at
I
the
think
level
she
of things
worked.
she's achieved.
I think she worked 2 or 3 matches for Rev Pro before the Cob Blocks.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
I think she'd done a couple with Maya Matthews and one with Alex Windsor. Generally down, I think randomly they happen to always be Southampton or Portsmouth.
I know the one with you're on about with Maya Matthews and Alex Windsor. I think that was just after that was last year. That was last November in Portsmouth. I was there for that one, and that was when
Was that a three? Was that the 3 of them against each other?
Oh no, not it wasn't. It was a number 1 contendership match where they were trying. Basically, Alex Windsor was trying to use Sapphire to stop Maya Matthews from.
I think
Yeah,
I think they definitely worked a single. I think that was their second,
interesting.
or maybe even their third singles match, because Sapphire and Maya worked a lot together, like to begin with. But very much like these, like these sporadic appearances. A bit like Chantel Jordan is a perfect example of somebody who has made sporadic appearances for Rev Pro over 2 years. So you could say she's worked for Rev Pro for 2 years, but then you could also say she's worked like 6 matches in those 2 years.
Yeah, but it's fantastic just seeing like that again, that progression in February when Sapphire was up against Danny Luna. Like I was really hyped for that, and I was like, yeah, that was a really good match. And I already know now that match would be 10 times better than it was then because again, I'd say a lot. She's a prodigy, right? She is truly a wrestling prodigy. It just seems every time she gets in, we're talking about her being doing babyface work. We're talking about her stealing the show in that tag team match with a lot of great performances, but the MVP because of what she brought, what she brings around the ringside area when she's not even in a match, the facial expressions of that girl, that is a selling point for me. Like she knows how to connect with people because you see all the shots of like when Danny Luna was suplexing her into the ring, and it's the face that she's got. That's what obviously the move sells it, but that reaction on that still that sells it. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough.
When you think about like how much potential wrestlers have, often we forget how young people are.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'd love to know. I'd love to know what the average age of a wrestler on the All-In card is. I'd imagine it's, I don't know, maybe 32, 33.
Yeah,
I suppose like for every super young person, you've got Chris Jericho to balance them out, Tomohiro Ishii. But like I always kind of think like in wrestling, when you think about like the top level, like the wrestlers who are making the most money in the world, let's say it that way, rather than comparing like quality because that's so subjective. The wrestlers who are making the most money in the world are normally aged between like 35 and 40 or 35 and 45.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like Lizzie Evo's 25 years old.
Crazy, isn't it?
Like she has got like so much time, but to be that good at that age, and we're so quick to say like, "Oh, Luke Jacobs at 23, but he's got the world at his feet." Well, surely so does Lizzie Evo.
Yeah.
At 20, like at 2 years older than her, like she is one of the top women in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like that's one thing that I feel like is one of like the next steps for we talked about it earlier, how if you want to come and work at Rev Pro, you can see the journey from how you get from working every week to working in front of 1,000 people, working in front of 4,000 people, working for another company in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
I don't think that path has been shown yet for a woman. I mean, it has in the sense that like Mariah May is going to be in like she'll probably be on the co-main event of All In, looking at the match graphic that's gone out. she worked Rev Pro, but she worked Rev Pro, went to Stardom, did her stuff in Stardom, made her name there. Tony Storm worked Progress before going out to Japan, and then, you know, like there's lots of women who have done really well working the independents, but women's wrestling in independent British wrestling has always been working all of them, as opposed to, whereas like JJ Gow is a Rev Pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he goes off and he wrestles other companies, but his home promotion is Rev Pro. Same with Robbie X. I don't know where it fits in with like Jacobs and RKJ, where they work both Progress and Rev Pro. I'll always say that they're like home Rev Pro guys because that's where I see them. It doesn't really matter, but it's not. There's like a couple of like top promotions that in the country where you can leap from, and I'm not sure if Progress gets the eyes on it these days that it used to. When it was like, you know, Jimmy Havoc's Progress.
Yeah.
Like if we go back to like before the pandemic, before the change in ownership, before Speaking Out, when Progress was the, you know, probably fair to say like the hot company, the cool company. I'm not sure if they still are, and I'm not sure if there's a path, like the path used to look like it went from Progress to WWE. I'm not sure if that does anymore with NXT UK kind of. I don't personally, I don't ever foresee NXT Europe happening. From the moment they announced that, I was like, that's a bit of PR, isn't it? We're going to close down NXT UK, but don't worry, we're going to be back with an even bigger thing. It's like you don't close something down to open something bigger. You just grow the thing that you've already got.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't ever foresee NXT Europe happening. Or if it does, it will be like it won't be anything to write home about. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure if that's like something. That's something I'm looking forward to. Who's going to be the next woman from British independent wrestling to make it, you know, basically get a life-changing amount of money from a contract?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really fair, a lot of what you said there, Dave, because looking at the way that when you sit and think about it, and you kind of mentioned a few names there, it's in the UK, build your name up for yourself with a few different independents, but never really having one that's your home, unless you are Tony Storm or you're Ginny, right? They were the main ones, right, with Progress. Some of them went off there, but you look at all the ones who've come on to be big names, like you said, Tony Storm, Japan, Mariah May, Japan, Jamie Hayter, Japan. Like that seems to be the route the women had to go, because actually you've got a company there who embraces women's wrestling so much that it's literally their whole identity. And I know that we have Eve here, but Eve was never able to break through that cool kind of in the way that Stardom did because of the style that they've got. I really hope that Rev Pro can be that place to foster this women talent, because that there is that that route needed. Because in general, in British wrestling, it's hard for the guys to get that next step up. Like you have to really be the top of the game to even get a look in, realistically, because it's not easy to just get someone in for a tryout and go, oh, let's get you in for a Dark or Dynamite pre-show or something like that. It's not easy to do these things. But I could see all these women working out in America and fitting in nicely. Like Alex Windsor, I could see her decent spot on AEW. I could see her heading up the Ring of Honor women's division for a while. I could see that. Lizzie Evo seems nailed on for WWE TV for me. Like absolutely nailed on. Like huge character work. Like just seems like she'd fit perfectly there. In the same way that I said that I thought Amira would fit in really nicely there as well. Like just big characters. Rio I could see anywhere, because reportedly as well, WWE had interest or still have interest. I'm not quite sure what is, but it was around Clash at the Castle time. There was talk that they were getting her in for a dark match and having a look at what she could bring. So you've got all these women who could go on and do massive things. And what I want to see, what I really want to happen, is the worries that I have of going, looks like Michael might be off sooner than we expected, right? Who's going to step in and fill that spot, right? That's what I want to feel like about the women as well. And go, who's up next? And have that talent cycle through. Cool. Right.
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
Wonderful.
Should we look ahead?
Let's look ahead. Well, before we do that, Dave, I just want to say to people, thank you if you've made it this far. As just rambling on about everything and anything. It's one of my favorite parts about what we do here is just think of all the different possibilities that's going on. But first of all, you will have noticed we have a lovely new look to the channel. A little bit more professional looking now, a bit more slicker than usual. Videos have been going down really, really well. Episodes have been going down really, really well. Seeing a lot of people getting involved, traction gaining. So thank you if you're one of those people that watch, who comment, who like. If you're not one of those people that subscribes, please consider doing so. We are seeing subscriber numbers go up, and that is meaning that we reach more people. And speaking for the lads here, I know they'll say the same thing, but genuinely the reason I do this is because I just like talking RevPro with everyone, and I want so many more people to just hear about RevPro and get involved. That's really all I want. If I was doing this for the money, I'd be sitting here having the Why I Hate AEW podcast and making the money off it that way. But I don't. I love RevPro. So please do subscribe. We're going to be here every week. Please consider just liking on YouTube. Those likes mean so much. 1 week we had, I think it was 5 likes, and just the amount of impressions that made across videos compared to one the previous week was incredibly different. So please do that. That would be wonderful. Comment. I'm making it my aim to reply to all comments on there as well, because if people take the time to comment us, we will comment back. You can find us on all kinds of social medias. You'll see now we've got our lovely social media handles right there on screen at the whole time, so you don't need to read that ticking bar at the bottom anymore going, I've got to catch up with all of these different kind of socials. You'll find us. Please just come along, like, share everything you can, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Help us get those algorithms boosted, because we just want to reach more and more people and have us in their ears talking RevPro. Right. So then,
good shilling, my friend. Good shilling.
We've got I've never done the shilling before. It feels really weird to do the shilling at this point. Please say you didn't turn off at that point.
But it's one of those things where, like, literally the difference between somebody watching the video and clicking the like button and not clicking it means, like, whether or not we get bumped up to like another 50 people's kind of, for you things. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're not doing this for the money. We're doing it because we want more people to discover RevPro, because we love it. And we think other people will love it. And ultimately that's gonna, like, you think, why do we all love RevPro? Because it's the in our opinion, the best British promotion. It's our favourite British promotion. But all of the things that we love about it are only possible because people are paying their 20 quid to go through the door every week.
Yeah.
And the more people that do that, the more cool things we get, like MJF at Summer Sizzler, and getting literally what we had. Like, we've got 3. This is mad. I don't know whether we've thought about this. On next week's show, we'll review the Copper Box. On the following week's show, we've got 3 RevPro shows to review, because we've got 2 out in Berlin and a 229, all to, like, that's literally like 9 hours of RevPro across one bank holiday weekend. No, that's this weekend, isn't it? Across one weekend, like, that's amazing. And the more people that go to the shows and enjoy it, and hopefully listen to us enjoying it, it just. I was always one of those people. My missus, we were literally talking about it earlier. She used to watch wrestling with me, so I had somebody to talk to about it, because I literally didn't have anyone to talk to about wrestling. And, like, this community it's a niche within a niche within a niche, isn't it? So when the 3 of us, like, we must live literally over 100 miles apart. and we see each other once every 2 months when we all meet up at Southampton to go to the wrestling together. Like, it's, if you need things like this, then podcasts like this where people can actually escape into the thing that they love. And, you know, if you love WWE and you love AEW, amazing. There's loads of podcasts out there for you to listen to. If you love Rev Pro, you've got a much smaller kind of group of opportunities to really mark out. And that's kind of what we're here for. So yeah, give us a like, folks, and interact with the posts, because it will help everybody.
Absolutely. And look, one of the things Dave just mentioned there as well was about the reach that we get. And peeling behind the curtain a little bit, we did have a downvote a couple of weeks ago. And look, this is going to happen to everyone. But generally, the reason I want to mention that is because that does impact our reach. So we are, on average, getting thousands of impressions on average per video. And that 1 week that happened, that one downvote, I think it got us into 500 different impressions, which you might go, wow, that's a lot. And if you asked me when we started this saying 500 impressions, I'd have been really cool with that. But seeing what we do, how that can impact us. So genuinely, what I would like to say to people is, if you are watching and you go, I'm really not liking this, my DMs are always open. Yeah, turn us off. But no, seriously, my DMs are always open. And I'm really happy for you to send me a message. This goes to anyone who's watching, whether it's good feedback or things you think we could do better, because I'm new to this game. This is what episode 10 we're doing here. And aside from like a couple of little podcasts I've done before, where it literally went on 1 or 2 episodes just while I was trying to work out all technicalities, it's not something I've done for a long time. I'm still learning this game, and just any kind of feedback anyone has that they want to give us, we will listen, we will take on board, and it's just good to know. Right.
Copper box time.
We've done the shilling. We're on an hour and
I've got a question for you, boys.
41 minutes. Yeah.
Who's winning, Oku or Jacobs?
Jacobs.
Oh, Jacobs. I don't want him to, but it's Jacobs.
But
I think Jacobs is as well.
I'm going to preface this a little bit. Everyone thinks Oku is losing and going straight to AEW, right? Again, he was emotional coming out, right? They both were. And look, unless they are phenomenal actors and actresses, right? Which we know they're very good at what they do, but to be that good. And again, I caught them just taking in every little thing in Southampton. Little things like yesterday. I just want to actually shout out the last couple of bits about Southampton. I want to shout out if the parents of the little kid who was sitting cheering the whole night, like the most adorable thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, Josh James, you all right, mate? Yeah. Like, push through it, and golden boy. Like, and then Amira gets him up and they're doing the hand slaps, and we're just watching and laughing. But just as he goes away, Amira just kind of turns and looks in all of our direction, and she just kind of smiles, and just, you can kind of see what that meant to her. I think a lot of this is the tour of finishing. Part of me thinks so. We're kind of almost getting something like a bit of a Summer of Punk back in the original Ring of Honor days. Not necessarily as a heel, but we're getting... it was very much like a Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking going anywhere. Like, that's what it was at the end of the show. And like, we're not going anywhere. I feel like the story's not done. I think it'll feel like they're going. I don't feel the story's done, but I think Luke has to take the title here. I think this is the moment where you have to crown your next guy up. And who is the perfect next guy up if not Luke Jacobs?
I think there's going and there's going, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Ospreay went this year. Like, he left. He's gone to AEW and will exclusively wrestle for AEW until a time when he doesn't. I do not believe that Will Ospreay will not wrestle for Rev Pro again, and I do not believe that he won't wrestle for New Japan again. Mm-hmm. But I also don't believe that I'm going to see him wrestle for either of those companies regularly ever again. And I don't think I'm going to see him. I've been going to Rev Pro for 2.5 years, and I've seen about 15 Will Ospreay matches. Mm-hmm. That's like incredible. I've been blessed with that. But I don't think I'm ever going to get that again. like 15 matches in 2.5 years. I don't think he'll ever wrestle 15 Rev Pro matches again. It might be like literally 5 times in the next 10 years or something like that. Whatever. I don't know. I'm speculating, but I'm like my gut feeling.
Of course.
But then, Leon Slater went to TNA, right? Leon Slater signed his contract. I was there at the TNA show when he signed his contract on what's his name's back? Can't think of his name. Scott D'Amore. That's what I'm looking for. Signed the contract, and Scott D'Amore's back, and there were literally people there like, oh my god, like we're never going to see Leon Slater again. And then we were like, well, no, actually, I've probably seen Leon Slater as many times this year as I did last year, because there's going and there's going. And I do believe that Michael Oku is going to be wrestling for AEW. Like, I do believe that he will make some appearances, but it's how, is he going to be Tate Mayfairs, who turned up one week, wrestled a match, and hasn't been spoken of since? Is he going to be the Beast Mortos, who is the flavour of the month at the moment? Like, do you remember when Bobby Fish was the flavour of the month in AEW? And he literally wrestled sort of like 10 matches in 10 weeks and then disappeared. And I know there was a bit of conflict between him and CM Punk. Shock.
Shocker.
But yeah, like there's going and there's going. So I'm not. For me, I'm looking at it as it's win, win, win. If he stays completely, win for me. If he goes and partly stays, win for me, win for him. And if he goes forever, win for him, because that's massive.
Yeah.
Not many people have left the British independent scene to go and earn mega money. You can literally tell, can't you? We know, which Rev Pro wrestlers are working tomorrow morning, and which wrestlers don't need to work tomorrow morning because they've made enough money from wrestling to not have to work tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And
which wrestlers are, that's a big deal. And I'd like to, surely the long-term goal is for all of them to be in that position.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm excited for the main event, but I also kind of feel like I know it's a bit weird because we're trying to preview the show. I'm just ready for it now. Like, it's everything that's been said has been said. Everything has been built so well for 5 months from the Revolution Rumble. Like, I'm just ready for this match now. And I know that I'm going to be completely lost in it. More so than I was in Ospreay and Shingo last year, which I bloody loved because they're two of my favourite wrestlers ever. But that was like an exciting spectacle where, we all knew Ospreay was going to win that match because he was going to go and work for All In the next day. And it was all kind of like, enjoy this exciting match, this exhibition spectacle, and then I wonder how they're going to finish the show. Like, is Jericho going to turn up? Is he not going to turn up? Is something else going to happen? Whereas this year, it's very much like all that drama and excitement is going to be in the actual bell to bell. Although you've got to think something's going to happen at the end, right?
What do you think?
It wouldn't be a Rev Pro show if they didn't leave the crowd with something to make you want to come back again and be like, oh, what's happening next?
Just see the Jericho thing again because he would get nuclear heat. No one likes him at the moment. If he does it again on Oku, it would throw stuff at him and it'll be epic. God.
No, Jericho comes out and takes Michael Oku to the learning tree.
Oh God, imagine.
What can he be? Like, do you know what, the sour grape. Can he be like the blood orange?
Yeah.
You got the redwood, the bad apple, and the blood orange.
I would take it. Honestly, I would take this for 2 reasons. One, Jericho clearly loves Michael Oku, right? I'm not thinking this is what is actually going to happen. Jericho loves Michael Oku, but you know what? I would watch weekly just to see Amira and Jericho.
Amira and Jericho.
Yeah, that would just be amazing. It would be so good. But what do I see happening? I don't know what I see happening at the end, right? I'm very much an in the moment kind of person, and it didn't enter my mind about Jericho till about a third of the way through the show, and I just turned around to my wife and went, "What if Chris Jericho turns up tonight?" And he did. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like it actually happened because you still remember that Rev Pro.
What did you book in the What If Michael Oku Retains? What did you book to be the closing of the show?
What for Copper Box? I booked Zazaya beating Michael Oku.
Oh.
That's what I booked. Yeah, because
what for next
for
year's
this
Copper
show.
Box?
Oh, sorry, no, for this
No,
show.
sorry, for this year's Copper
Oh,
Box. Did you have something to finish it?
I think I just had it with Michael and Amira kind of cheating to win, and enough that it kind of had.
So your big finish was the heel turn.
Yeah.
Whereas if my finish comes true, I think there's going to be a lot of. I mean, it will get the heat that I chose it for. I had RKJ come out to confront Oku, and Saraya and Zack Knight to beat the shit out of Amira and Oku, and you finish with the Knight family in the ring, Saraya being the Jericho of last year, and then it going into RKJ and Oku. I feel like I feel like however they finish the show, we're gonna leave happy. I don't remember a big York Hall, Crystal Palace, Copper Box, whatever Rev Pro show where there wasn't a dramatic finish.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was like a big moment like RKJ winning the title at York Hall 2 years ago, or whether it was Trent stealing the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like if Oku wins, they'll definitely have to show their hand as to what's next for him. And if Jacobs wins, you can have the big celebration. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the big crowning of Luke Jacobs is enough. I think because they did Jericho last year, everyone's going to have half an eye on, like, no matter what the finishes, they're going to be looking around the ring. They're going to be having a quick look over their shoulders at the entranceway to be like, do you remember the Scream series?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like in the first Scream film, the big twist. And yeah, sorry if this is a spoiler. 25
spoilers, Dave. Spoilers.
25 years. I think you can avoid spoilers for 25 years. But you know, Scream's big twist was the fact that there was two murderers, right? So then in the next film, you're watching it and you're like, oh, I reckon it's him and him. Like everyone knew that it was going to be two murderers again, because that's now like what you're expecting. So I feel like there will be an expectation this year for something big to come.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also know that we're going to get some surprises on the day. So maybe the surprises come there. We didn't have any surprises last year, right? We didn't have, the whole card was revealed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Whereas this year, we still don't know who the woman is going to be. And we're not going to know that before the show. And we don't know who the sixth member of the Cruiserweight Scramble is going to be. And we're not going to know that before the show either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody that we want to float their names out there for it?
Go on, Spike. I'll chuck over to you first, mate. Who's your fifth woman and who's your sixth man?
First, before I get there, what if when Jacobs wins, NJF's music hits?
Oh.
Because there's that's not tied off.
I mean, it's perfectly within the storyline, isn't it?
And that would just be a monster. As far as the fifth woman, I don't know. It's got to be an AEW name, I reckon. Because I can't think of anyone
that's
else.
I think the AEW name is most likely, given the links between Rev Pro and AEW. And obviously, Mina Shirakawa was Stephanie Vacula's replacement. And when they said they're going to lean on their relationships, that's obviously leaning on Tony Khan, because it's come from him. It hasn't come from Stardom, because she's currently working with AEW, not working with Stardom. Although I think she's still working with both, but it's Tony Khan that's made that possible. So if it's an AEW name, I don't. Is there anybody in the AEW where it makes storyline sense for them to be Team Rev Pro? Anyone I'm missing?
It might have been George, but I'm sure I came up with the perfect. We came up with the perfect scenario, and I've completely forgotten what we were talking about. There was we came up with a name.
I'll take being told that I'm perfect, mate. Like I'll take that all day long. I don't know what it is, but I'll take it.
I can't remember.
I know, Jamie Hayter was kind of touted, but I can't see it being Jamie Hayter because I can't see Tony Khan letting her return and being an independent when
you can't have that.
Or at Wembley.
I'm just loading up Wikipedia now to have a look at the names on there and looking.
The thing is, there's loads of women in AEW who this would be brilliant for. It's just, is there anyone where it makes the storyline?
Exactly.
Because the one for me is, if we were going to say, okay, it's any woman in the world, but it's going to make storyline sense, then I'd say, oh, it should be Giselle Shaw. Like, Team Rev Pro, there you go. There's like former undisputed British Women's Champion Giselle Shaw, who was like beloved by Rev Pro fans.
Yeah.
But that's working on the TNA side of it and the like the independent booking side of it. I think that's a probably, if I was going to hang my hat on a name, I would say Giselle Shaw. If it's an AEW name, I kind of feel like it could be anybody. Like someone, like literally take your pick, really. Like, because like we said, it's different in a multi-person match, where when we'd said before about Tony Khan would never let anybody work both shows. Now, obviously, Ospreay worked both shows last year, and Ishii's working both shows this year, but neither of those people were, at the time of the bookings, contracted to Tony Khan. So I don't see Tony Khan letting anyone work both shows. But if he was going to let someone work both shows, a multi-person match is the perfect one, isn't it? Because it's the lowest risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you've got people like Hikaru Shida, who doesn't look like she's going to be on the main card.
No.
You've got Deonna Purrazzo, but maybe she looks more likely her and Thunder Rosa at All Out, for instance.
That was what I said.
Looking at the card, like you said, there is someone in there who does make a bit of sense, but I don't know how many times. Maybe that's because I've seen her in Rev Pro once before, and that's Emi Sakura. But I've seen her once Rev Pro at the 1865, so I don't know how much she did feature. But looking at the rest of them, there's no, like you said, there's no one that really jumps out. Like, the only one that really jumps out from AEW making huge ton of sense is Jamie Hayter. So I think Giselle Shaw's a good shout. Literally never seen her once before. Her and Alex Windsor at the 1865. Phenomenal match. First time I ever saw Alex Windsor, who I think she'd just come back from injury at that point, Alex Windsor, and she was wrestling babyface as well, which I can't imagine that from her now after seeing just how nicely she fits in. My pick then is, I'm kind of thinking, if she's up for it, the woman that I think could go in there is Zoe Lucas, but I don't know.
I thought you were going to say her.
Yeah, and now I don't know a lot about her career, right? I know about her career, but actually matches. Like, she's someone whose name I've seen, and a lot of the people in the British scene would be ones that I kind of follow what they're doing, but just didn't have the means to watch a lot of Stardom back in the day. So, and it comes down to if she's up for it, of course, because I think there's kind of a few factors to put into perspective here. One, where the kind of crowd we're going to, and I think was mentioned earlier that the crowd are going to be a bit more casual than normal. Okay. So does that name get the reaction, or is the hardcores in there enough to get like that up there? But I think it's also a name that if her name just pops up on screen, people aren't going to care that it's not a top level AEW name, because I think people are going to build it up in their mind. I really do think people are going to build this and build it and build it. And some people are going to set themselves unrealistic expectations, especially when yours truly was one of those people going, Orange Cassidy is going to be in that match. And
yeah, I remember standing outside in the queue with you, being like, "Dude,
calm it."
You might want to just kind of bring that expectation level down a little bit."
But when you get to pay off those things because of a relationship with a company like AEW supporting you, like with that as a partner, it means that you can be forgiven sometimes for allowing it to run away, that this is a fully independent company. And if you want to hear how independent it is, DaveTheMark.com did a beautiful article on that. But they are fully independent.
Thanks very much.
And Shilling always makes Shilling. They do a great job of that, but they are just partners. They're not like one company. They're not owned together. They just work well together. So Zoe Lucas is one of those ones that it means that you don't have to get in another big import. You can set expectations, but it can also make sense as well. And that's it for me. It's about whoever they bring in there making sense. And if they can't bring in someone that makes sense, then just bring in someone who's cool as fuck, like Karashida.
Yeah, absolutely. Who wins this one? Cutthroat Collective or Team Rev Pro?
Cutthroat Collective.
100%. Yeah. I think it would be the wrong thing to do that.
I'd like it to be Cutthroat Collective. I have a feeling it might be Team Rev Pro because of who comes in being on the winning team, like a bit of politics. But I kind of feel like with any multi-person match, you can always protect another team. No one has to look bad in losing when there's lots of people involved.
The other thing is, it's not been announced that it's a elimination match. It's just a 10-person tag, so it just requires one pinfall, doesn't it?
And if it's no disqualification, is it going to be one of these lucha rules kind of tags? Because like they did a little bit unexpectedly last time. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure I know what this match looks like. I just know I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I trust all the women involved to deliver.
Absolutely.
If it is Willow, though, Chris Statlander can take Willow out of the match.
Oh, yeah, this is it. Like, that would be a great way of getting even more kind of like AEW rub on the Cockawalk show, would be to have not only an AEW person involved in one of the matches, but also have an AEW person like make an appearance like that. And that would be perfect, wouldn't it? Yeah. Love to see Stokely in the Cockawalks.
So let's talk about who we think would be the sixth man. My theory the whole time has been Leo Rush. I've not been able to look past it. In the same way, I just couldn't look past Willow for the slot against Danny. So I've very much blinkered once I've got my mindset on it. I think he's someone that could fit that quite well. And also today he happened to put on Twitter, like, I know they're traveling. When I was listening to the AEW Unrestricted podcast, I know that they said they were all traveling on Tuesday. That was the plan over to here. But Leo Rush did put a little England flag and flight emoji on Twitter earlier. So it's like, wonder if he's planning on doing a little bit in England just before that. But that's who I think. Someone of that ilk makes sense to me. Like,
I'll be honest, mate. I fully agree with you. So I'll happily bounce some other names out there. But if you're actually going to ask me, like, if I was going to hang my hat on somebody again, I would hang my hat on Leo for this match. And also, I think I would enjoy that more than, even though I've said, like, you know, on one side, there's me where it's like, I've seen Leo Rush like before. It would be nice personally to see somebody different. But on the other hand, because Leo Rush, I've seen him before, and he feels kind of a part of the Rev Pro kind of family.
Yeah,
that makes me want to see him more, as opposed to, like, say, Action Andretti or Dante Martin. Like, and I think something else that's interesting is AEW don't do weight divisions, do they?
No.
So,
they don't.
You know, I mean, technically, Adam Cole's a cruiserweight, right? Like, if we were going to do it by weight divisions. So I would say that with AEW, whoever they send over, maybe I'm overthinking it. What a shock! But if they who are like for them to send over Leo Rush, like Leo Rush is how do I say this? He is definitely a cruiserweight.
Yeah.
Like in terms of his stature, there is no debating whether or not he's a cruiserweight. Whereas Adam Cole is a shoot cruiserweight who could be AEW champion.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, like that's so for Leo, like, and Leo works a cruiserweight style. Adam Cole doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm kind of getting at?
I do, and it's one of the things like
who have we got in the scramble? So we've got high flying luchador Neon.
Yes.
We've got like technician Will Caven.
Yep.
We've got kind of all rounder Cameron Kai.
Yep.
High flyer Leon Slater.
Yep. One more.
And all rounder ELP.
Got them all.
Yeah, do you know what? I was thinking by thinking about the styles of the wrestlers, what does the match need? It doesn't need anything, does it?
No, it's got.
Like,
and the other thing to bear in mind as well when you're thinking, Dave, is we've got Collision and Dynamite on Wednesday night. So if it is someone from AEW, there is that wildcard match for the trios titles because that just came out of nowhere. So some of these names like Leo Rush that we're chucking out here, Dante Martin, even Action Andre, they could legitimately be featured in a trio that could go on to Wembley. So even when you're looking at it 100%. There, because we don't know what that looks like, do we? We just know it's a
we haven't had anything for that Collision show yet, do we?
No,
apart from that match?
No. So
because it dawned on me, this must be what it's like to live in America, right? You go to if the Dynamite and Collisions. I know Dynamite and Collision aren't normally back-to-back shows, so it is a little bit different. But like when they are back-to-back shows, you know what the Dynamite card you're going to is, and then on Dynamite they'll make announcements for Collision, which is actually like an hour later, not 3 days later.
Here's the thing, though, we're used to this because we're RevPro fans, so cards coming out that a little bit later and whatnot. Sorry, Andy Quilden. I know you watched this, Andy Quilden. I'm just bringing up the cards for AEW now as well because I think that plays into it because we don't know. We just know there's a wild card match, and that wild card could be like one trio versus one trio. It could be 4 trios against each other because hey, this is a way you get the UK lads onto a show. You get a trio of Ethan Allen, Luke Jacobs, and Connor Mills or something like that. It's just as a trio. That would be a great trio. But you could just do something like that to get them on the card, and they'll be the ones to take a pin to an AEW team.
I think there'll be a British team in the Collision wildcard match.
And that's it. We just don't know what it looks
Collision
like.
Collision always uses some local talent, doesn't it? Like wherever Collision is, they always have some local talent. It's always, Jack Perry in action, and then Jack Perry squashes a local guy in 2 minutes.
Yeah, because they had
I don't want to see any of our British guys getting squashed in 2 minutes, but this is a way of doing it where it's like a bit more respectful.
So according to Cage Match, they've got it billed as one trio versus another. I love that it's a London Ladders wildcard qualifier match in Cardiff, Wales. Love that. But no, I mean, I say all we've got booked so far across both shows is that Big Bill versus Hook, Jericho versus Tommy Billington, Tony Storm versus Soraya, and just a little match between Okada and Claudio. So yeah, we don't know what's going to happen on Wednesday with the taping, so that might even give us a bit. We could be sitting here saying Leo Rush, this one that makes sense to us, but it then all changes because that's who gets booked to win the trios match.
Is there anyone in particular, Spike, you'd like to see?
I just want it to be Orange Cassidy. I would like that to be his spot now. He just turns up. I think I said to George.
Oh,
I think I said to George about he comes in every year and he's an extra surprise. So by like in 5 years' time, you have like a 20-man scramble, and Orange Cassidy is always the last man to come in. But that is just something that would pop me every year.
I don't know if
Yeah,
he counts. I don't know if he counts as a cruiserweight anymore, but there is someone on the AW roster who does make sense as well, and that's Carl Fletcher. But I don't know now whether or not, because Carl Fletcher.
He's in the story though, isn't he?
Yeah, I think no matter how much well, first of all, I think he weighs too much. Now anyway, because he's bulked up massively, isn't he?
That's what I was
but
thinking.
I feel with his height, even when he was younger and was like a shoot cruiserweight in weight sense, he'd look really odd in a cruiserweight match because of the fact that he's like 6 inches, 8 inches taller than some of the other guys. And
because I have to be real, like I never realised how tall. Even when I saw him in Southampton, like I think the guy's had a growth spurt in between. Yeah, because I don't recall him ever being that tall. If I'm honest, like I always said, if you asked me, I was always thought that he was like under 6 foot because he looked tiny. Like I don't know what it was.
He's like 6'4".
Yeah, he's mad. I reckon he's just had a growth spurt afterwards, but. I like Spike's idea of Orange Cassidy always being that guy until the time that he isn't, and it's someone different. That would be cool.
The pop's going to be great for whoever it is, because when you think like the Sky Blue pop last year,
incredible,
was massive. But Sky Blue, like, I mean, am I remembering this? Am I getting my timeline muddled up? This time last year, Sky Blue was still pretty much just like a perennial loser in AEW. She'd kind of stopped being jobber, like losing in 2 minutes, but she was losing every week in 6 or 7 minute matches.
She's just been signed, and she wasn't quite signed yet.
I think it's around that
she
time,
was by no means the Sky Blue that she is now, where she's like, TBS champion in weight.
Yeah.
And she got a massive reaction then. So I kind of feel like with surprises, as long as when that music hits and the image goes up on the screen, as long as it's obvious who it is, you get a massive moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get
it's a funny one because at the Revolution Rumble, the surprise entrant was Chris Ridgway, and his was the perfect example. And I mean this with no disrespect to Ridgway at all, because I love him. But his was the perfect example of an underwhelming surprise entrant. But the reason was not because it was Chris Ridgway, but because of Chris Ridgway's music, which is not that identifiable. It's got quite a long and not very well-known intro bit. And after about however many seconds, it might only be like 6 or 7 seconds, but it felt like 30.
Yeah.
Chris Ridgway's name appeared on the screen. And I remember sitting in York Hall and everyone's turned around, everyone's excited, everyone's been talking about who the 30th person could be. And the music hit, and you could literally see, because I'm such a ADHD, I'm just always watching everything. So I'm a proper people watcher. And there were loads of people just sort of like looking at each other, like, because he didn't come out, his name didn't appear. It was just this music.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris Ridgway comes up, and then he comes out. But by that point, it's a bit like, oh right, it's Chris Ridgway.
Yeah.
Whereas Orange Cassidy, High Stakes, literally the second you hear that music, it's like everybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like that. As long as they have someone that the fans are going to know instantly with the music and the Tron, like, you'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who do we think wins? Is Neon still the undisputed British Cruiserweight champion this time next week?
No. I think Neon Slater wins it. I think
Leon Slater leaves as Cruiserweight champion.
I think we've had an underwhelming year for the Cruiserweights, and I would like to see us crown Leon Slater again and do the Leon Slater run we should have.
So I'm going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons then, because I don't see an obvious winner here.
I That's the thing, though, isn't it? There isn't one.
Yeah, I don't think Neon retains, because I think you've taken Neon, you've used Neon for the bit of exposure to get your title in CMLL on screen, being defended out there. You've had like the opportunity to show Fantastica Mania titles can change hands, because let's be honest, no one expected that, right? We just didn't.
No,
it was, you kind of go into that show and expect these to be nice defenses, but it's a showcase more than anything.
My very first thought was that it was a botch.
Yeah,
like literally, my first thought was, "Oh my god! Like, did the ref count wrong?" And then you have that moment of coming out of it being like, "Nope, this is clearly the plan. Everything's going according to plan." And you're like,
"Yeah,
oh wow,
yeah,
did not see that coming at all."
So
I'm with Spike. Sorry, mate, you were saying like you don't see ELP or Cameron Kai.
Well, so I was actually going to say that there's two options I see here. So I don't think I see those guys yet. I think those guys feature heavily in the Super J Cup. For me, it's out of three people. Leon is probably like the lowest on that at the moment, because I don't know what's going with Leon at the minute. The whole TNA stuff, ever since TNA stuff got announced, it feels almost like Leon's been put on the back burner. And I don't know if it's, and that's the same with Progress as well. Like he's been used in matches here and there, but in Progress he didn't feature far in the Super Strong Style 16. He was out first round to Shelton Benjamin, and it was DeReese that carried that storyline. So all of these things that kind of like, he won the title, it was almost like it was to pay off that winning the title, and then it was gone quickly. So I'm not sure with that. So Neon in Robbie X's most recent match out in Mexico, I think his most recent singles match, he cheated to beat Neon. So you could say that he's got a pinfall victory over the Rev Pro Cruiserweight champ. So does Neon retain? And then Robbie X at Global Wars, does he come in, get his title shot, and take the title there? That's an option. Or the other option, does ELP come in and
I'd
take
be happy with that.
Yeah. ELP could come in and take it as well. He's coming over for the 229 shows. I know it's the week after.
The one that gets me with ELP. ELP is very much a New Japan heavyweight.
Okay.
Like, and he's not going to be in Best of the Super Juniors. He's not going to be in the Junior Tag League. Like, he's just come out of the G1. I feel like ELP is there for the history. The fact that he used to be a cruiserweight champion. However, if we use some logic I've used before, do you remember when we thought it was going to be Danny Luna versus Stephanie Vaquer? I said I thought Stephanie Vaquer was going to win because she was booked for the Berlin tour. Or ELP is booked for the Berlin tour. Is he going to win the Cruiserweight Championship and take it to Berlin and to the 229? Or is it just a nice opportunity for him to come back and do some European shows?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's one of the things that I love most about Rev Pro. There's some good there's good storyline for lots of different things. I think it'd be brilliant for Cameron Kai. For me, I think when Cameron Kai becomes Cruiserweight Champion, it should be out of a really good feud at York Hall, where he wins in a big one-on-one match.
Yeah.
Not where he comes out of a scramble match with the title.
How I would like to see the booking for this one personally is I'd like to see Cameron Kai almost be on the front foot quite a lot of the match, being directed outside by Leighton, on the front foot, and every time he gets that scramble pin taken away from him, he gets another one, and have it go right down to the wire, with Cameron Kai being the one that's leading it, and then someone kind of takes it. And you can have Cameron kind of lean into the heel, but give it that so that it looks like he's getting there, and you can see the progression from where he was before Leighton's mentorship up to there, to give him a strong push for the Super J Cup.
I'm pretty certain it's just one fall.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I don't think
it's Yeah, I thought this when I was listening to the pod last week. So there's, as far as I'm aware, at least post-pandemic, I think pre-pandemic they've done a scramble match, because I'm pretty sure Mad Kurt won, or Curtis Chapman won, the cruiserweight title in a scramble match. I can't remember if it had the word scramble in it, but there's no scramble to the scramble matches they've booked. So the one that Orange Cassidy was in, that was called a scramble.
Right.
And
okay.
the
Fair.
one
Okay.
at the Copper Box last year was called a scramble, even though it was effectively just 6 all against all, first person to get a pinfall.
Right. Okay. So yeah, because that
hasn't been confirmed. Like I'm just basing it on what they've done when they've called it a scramble before.
Okay.
Because like, I'm with you. I grew up always kind of associating scramble with like the old hardcore championships in WWF, when it was a 10-minute time limit. Whoever's got the championship after 10 minutes is the winner.
Yeah, so that's what I saw for 1PW. It was a 6-person scramble, which I think it was Robbie X, Leo Rush, Scotty Rourke, Luke Jacobs, and 2 others for Frankie Kazarian, as someone that's out of my head. But like that was a proper one where it was like 15 minutes were on the screen and you could see the timer counting down, and they were exchanging. This person's now in control, and fair, because I don't know, maybe because it's Sylvian said it's a scramble, but that's all I've had in my head the whole time. I'm just gonna say it then, just to go against the grain a little bit. I'm saying Neon or El Phantasmo walk out as champion.
Yeah, I mean it could be, because I mean we didn't know that the last week the 8-man tag, or the 4-team 4 against 4, 4 tag team, 4-corner tag team match. Like we didn't know that was going to be Lucha Rules until Francesca said it. So who knows? Yeah, we'll find out inside.
So shall we just go through a quick ones that maybe a bit more quick fire that we think we probably know what's likely to happen here? Danny Luna versus Mina Shirakawa.
Danny retains.
Definitely Danny.
Yeah, I don't see.
I think it's going to be a really fun exhibition match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. Agree on that one. G1 Climax winner Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechicero.
It's got to be ZSJ, isn't it?
Yeah.
After he's just won the G1, and then with Royal Quest being announced, and I mean, I personally am confident he's going to be IWGP Heavyweight Champion at Royal Quest.
Yeah, because
he's having his title shot against Naito like the week before Royal Quest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, and it just seems fitting, doesn't it?
Feels like they've perfectly done that so that he can be British Heavyweight Champion. IWGP Heavyweight Champion in London.
Yeah, they definitely are trying to get that title off Naito as soon as possible, aren't they?
He's at the moment, he is like, he's Moxley.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we have lost Dave. Oh. That's fine. We thank everyone for bearing with. For some reason tonight, some of the cameras have dipped in and out a little bit. So while I'm just going to try and bring Dave back into proceedings, it's kick Dave out. So we're gonna go rogue and go 2-man for a moment while we wait for Dave to rejoin us. But yeah, I think that's going to be a great match. The Zack Sabre Jr. versus Hechicero match, Spike. From what I've heard about the match that they had out in CMLL, that was an incredible match. Like, it was so good, that match, and people talk about it, like, I think it got rated a 5-star match. So we're oh, Dave's joined us. Dave, we were just talking about how good Hechicero versus Zack Sabre Jr. apparently was out in CMLL.
It's going to be a special match. It's the sort of match where I think, this is a bit of a bold suggestion, I think it would be a great match to put on first. Just to absolutely hit the ground running. Because it's one of those matches where it's not got heat going into it. It's going to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
So get some of those spectacles on in that first half to like give people give those casual fans some of what they've wanted like right at the start, and then get everybody in a good mood for. I suppose the danger is you don't want people to run out of energy and end up with that chant that shall not be named from last year's situation.
Oh, do no. Yeah, okay.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, do not
Can't even
jinx
bring
it.
myself to say it.
Yeah, no, I think the real winner of this match, aside from Zack Sabre Jr., is going to be the fans, because I think from everything I've heard about that
100%.
match, I've got that match. I haven't watched it yet because I thought, actually, do I want to watch it beforehand in case it pays off in this?
Yeah,
I don't know, because
Same
it's
here.
maybe it's not a heated rivalry enough to be one that will pay off and have all these Easter eggs. But I know as well with what Zack Sabre Jr. does, and I hate to say I'm so late to the party on Zack Sabre Jr. Like, for a long time, he didn't have enough of a character for me. And this was when my style of wrestling I liked more was American Western style with lots of character and entertainment. Okay, I was more of the WWE style than I was where I am now. But I also think now Zack Sabre Jr. as a guy, he's kind of like, he's bulked himself up, but he's not this skinny, gangly kid anymore. And he's just got this aura about him. Again, I say that word, shouldn't be saying it, but he does. He's just cool.
It's true though.
Anyone that can allow me in an arena to chant "fuck the Tories" over and over again, I'm happy with that. Hashtag politics. Okay, so what else we got? That looks. I suppose the next one, then we've got. Well, I'm saying this. I'm looking at them. I don't think any of them are particularly easy to call, but I'm going to go with one that maybe doesn't have as much immediate Rev Pro ramifications. It just seems like a great match. Dijak versus Gabe Kidd. I'm going Gabe Kidd to win that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Gabe Kidd.
Wonderful. That is just going to be piss and vinegar.
New Japan strong openweight champion. Like, I don't see him unless Dijak's gonna wrestle him again out in Japan. But I feel like I want Gabe Kidd to win it as well, because like I want Gabe's like win-loss record to now truly reflect how big of a star he's made himself.
Yeah, he's
like he is, he's kind of transcended beyond Rev Pro now. Like when I first was going to Rev Pro shows, I'd see Gabe Kidd a lot, and now we've got to. I feel like we're getting to that Zack Sabre Jr. level where it's like when you get to see Gabe Kidd in a Rev Pro ring, which I do think we're going to see a lot of in the future, but when we do it, it's a treat, and it's like it's something that you don't take for granted. And I think that with some big wins will help that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, I don't see Gabe Kidd as a Rev Pro guy, because my history of him was literally seeing him one as like contender, and that's it. So I wasn't seeing him at shows. I wasn't watching at the time. So for me, I know Gabe Kidd mainly from his time in New Japan and what I'm seeing coming out of there. And I know a lot of people say WCPW and stuff. So to me, this doesn't feel like a Rev Pro wrestler versus Rev Pro wrestler. This feels like a British wrestler who's had a bit of time with Rev Pro. And that's what makes it maybe a bit harder for me to call. I think Gabe wins the match. I would love this to get away for Dijak to get himself out to Japan. And the match that I really need to see New Japan book is Donovan Dijak versus Lance Archer. That's where I need this to get to somehow. Spike, how about you, mate? What's your thoughts on this one?
I think it's going to be, like you said, piss and vinegar. And it's going to be really good to watch. But I think Gabe Kidd, like Dave said, is a spectacle now. He's an event in his own right, and he's earned it. But I don't see Dijak sticking around either. I think he's literally here to give the big WWE rub and put some people over, and that's perfect. I would never have guessed Gabe Kidd versus Dijak, but I'm glad we've got it, because it's going to be I mean, you've got the Dijak. If it's going to be the Keith Lee Dijak, if it's that Dijak versus this Gabe Kidd, it's potential to be match of the night. It's going to be a sleeper one for sure.
If we get the Dijak that was against Robbie X, we're going to be getting a great match because he looked like he hadn't missed a beat since I watched those Keith Lee matches, and yeah, the guy looked good.
That was my Summer Sizzler match of the night by a distance. I really enjoyed
understand that. Yeah, it was such a good match, and you know what? We said this when we left the show. If someone told me those last 3 matches that one of them was your match of the night, I couldn't argue against any of them. For me, like they all had very different things, all great matches in very different ways, but yeah, just great matches. We touched on it earlier. Connor Mills versus Ethan Allen. I am looking at Connor Mills for this one, but
I literally, I could flip a coin.
Yeah.
Like I can't decide to the point where I'm almost not even prepared to say a name because I have no justification of one over the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want Mills. And I think I want Mills because I feel like Mills needs a big win more than Ethan Allen does. But on the other hand, what a moment for Ethan Allen after everything he's gone through to be able to celebrate in the ring at the end.
So here's your pitch then.
So
Ethan Allen wins against Connor Mills. Luke wins the title off of Michael Oku. ELP wins the title, or Neon retains, but ELP going to Berlin. And Ethan Allen has said that he wants to have singles gold alongside Luke. So what if we get to 229 and Ethan Allen beats ELP? There you go.
I would love that.
There's another scenario. And this is, again, we talk about this a lot, but how everything all links in and it all makes sense. And even if this doesn't happen, that's fine. Because this makes sense enough that if this did happen, cool. But what will happen will probably make just as much sense as well.
Yeah.
Spike, where are you leaning on this one, mate?
It is a really tough one because they are just where they are in their Rev Pro thing. It doesn't make sense for either to win or lose.
Mm-hmm.
But Mills is Mills, and Ethan Allen, win or lose, is in Young Guns. So I want Mills to win because I think Mills deserves a bit of a good run now. And if Oku's stepping aside, Mills versus Jacobs, that's a lovely first little feud you can do, and they will beat the shit out of each other. So if Mills is going to win, I hope that's what it leads to, and we get Mills and Jacobs for 3-4 months.
I mean, I'm pretty sure one of their matches appeared on my top 10 for the first half of the year this year. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, brilliant chemistry, those guys. Nice.
What about Zazaya and RKJ?
Oh god, yeah, I hadn't even considered that one as we were talking because that is not on my cage match list in front of me.
It's not like officially announced, is it? Like there hasn't been a match graphic been dropped yet, but we know it's happening from the RKJ video that dropped at the show yesterday, and he's put on his socials today.
The match graphic did drop as part of the video, but like you said, I've not seen it on social media. Yeah, so this is a tough one for me because you speculated when we was chatting like where we thought this was going, like who was going against who. Now I thought Dijak versus Isaiah was where we were getting to. So when the Gabe Kidd stuff came up, I was like, okay. I think we're getting RKJ win here. Zazaya is the guy who has the big wins over everyone, right? That's his thing. He has the big wins over everyone. And RKJ needs that kickstart again. We've said this, that it just feels like he needs to get going. And what better way to get going than being the guy who beats the guy who beats everyone, right? It's almost like, I'll go back to like, what was it, the 60s, right? When Scotland beat England after England won the World Cup, first team to play them, they beat them, so they were the unofficial world champions. And like you say, you go, well, my football team is better than your football team because they beat them, and it's like, okay, fine. Like it's that whole, you can play off that a little bit. Well, I'm the best because I beat the guy who's beating all the best, and then speculated for a while as well that could be his first feud for Luke was against RKJ.
Yeah.
I mean, their match I saw them have at the Electric Ballroom for Progress this year was great. And all I'll say is if they do something like that, but do it in a Rev Pro style where it doesn't devolve into an outside bowling alley with the chairs and all of this malarkey, and actually give it time, give it a good match.
Is that what they did?
Oh yeah, that's what they do.
Because so high stakes 2022 and British J Cup last year, Luke Jacobs versus RKJ on both of those shows, absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
just beat the shit out of each other for 20 minutes.
Yeah, they eventually did that, but yeah,
just like anything you can do, I can do better. And the super hot reactions for both of them, like two incredible matches. I think they've had a third because I'm sure that the one in the J Cup was their rubber match of sorts, but like a slow burning rubber match in the sense that they'd had like 3 matches over the course of like 2 years. I can't think what that third one was though.
Yeah, so you got high stakes 2022 RKJ defeats Luke Jacobs. You've got British J Cup 21st of October 2023. Luke beats RKJ. In between that, we had Luke beat Zach Knight at the 229. But it doesn't look, so
no, I think you're right. I think it was Luke Jacobs. It was building up to Jacobs challenging Oku at the 229, and he wanted to rewrite some of his wrongs. So before he wanted to go for the championship again, he wanted to get his win over RKJ, and then he announced his match against Ishii for Uprising.
Cool. Yeah.
But then the strange thing was they did the Oku match title defense before Uprising. So it was a bit like, I'm going to rewrite my wrongs before I go for the title, and then ended up getting a title shot like in between.
Yeah.
I might be misremembering it how he presented it, or it might just be that the circumstances meant that they needed to run that earlier than they. So I suppose that's where Zach Gibson became available.
Yeah, no, but I think those two would have great chemistry. I think I know that they have great chemistry, and I think a feud between them would be great. But that's where I see this match going. Zazea is young enough, and look, he's probably exceeded all expectations of where we thought he'd be. Even in that Barcelona show, he looked good, but if you told me he'd be in the position he's in now, as I would say, effectively number 2, probably main event level babyface in Rev Pro, if you go by that tiering, I'd say that's where he sits right now. He's leapfrogged a whole lot of people, quite literally yesterday. And yeah, the guy can take a loss here and be fine with it.
It's like a breakout performance for Zazea, isn't it? In front of a crowd of people who don't know him.
This is very much a thank you for all the work you've done for us so far. Here's your moment. This is your reward. Go out there and show these people what you've got. Yeah. Cool. And then
I can see Zazea losing, standing ovation, but I can see him winning the J Cup. Because I think he's good enough to do that.
I think he's 100% a perfect person to win the J Cup. My only worry is, again, will they? I mean, at the end of the day, this is Rev Pro, right? Luke Jacobs was a cruiserweight. Charles Samuels was a cruiserweight when he needed to be a cruiserweight. So Zaya is a big guy, but he could definitely present himself as a cruiserweight. I think we have a 4th guest on our pod.
Is it Dixie? Yeah, I can.
Shush. He's invaded my podcasting space.
Little Cat Saber Jr.
Where should we go next? Don't go to Sunshine Machine. Don't go there.
Okay, well,
Sunshine Machine are going to win. Everything's going to be fine. On to the next one.
We're going to end Dave's heartbreak last. We're Kirk's match. I think this next match, is the hardest match to call on the card for me. And it's Tomohiro Ishii versus JJ Gale. I kind of feel like this almost felt like a reward match for JJ, right? You're doing great, right? And they're pushing him up, right? Because again, if Michael Oku does go, you need those guys next in line, right? But it's a big reward match. I'm loving these little meows. But where this also feeds in, because I go, do I want JJ Gale to beat Ishii when Luke Jacobs has it? And that feels like the match that you're telling, right? So if I had Luke Jacobs as champion, then what I do is I book Luke Jacobs versus Ishii for Global Wars. And then that's when you do, because that's just a spectacle show, isn't it? So you can do that. You can have Luke Jacobs get his win there, right? That's how you get his win in that trilogy. Finally beats Ishii. Does that mean as much if JJ Gale beats Ishii first? I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it does. But JJ Gale beats Ishii. He's done something Luke Jacobs hasn't done. Champion Luke Jacobs, here you go. Here's another person to go against. So my heart is saying Ishii wins because I think you have JJ get that close.
Ishii versus JJ, for me, I'm completely with George. The head says Ishii wins because this is JJ's Luke Jacobs moment from last year where he's the nearly man. But I love the fact that there's a great story to be told if JJ does win, because like we say, that kind of it gives him all the reason to go back after Jacobs. But if I was going to stick a tenner on it, I'd go with Ishii.
I think Ishii's winning. I think it. You can't give JJ the Ishii win if you're not going to give it to Jacobs first.
Yeah.
But I think you can. There's a few ways you can go. You can desperation can set in, and JJ can win by shenanigans, and then start questioning his own morality. You can go that route. You can go the route of one of my favorite spots in the whole of wrestling is the desperation middle finger when you know you've lost. But if you do that with JJ here, I think it'll just be brilliant. It'll be beautiful because I think that'll be the only way you should beat JJ is him deciding, fuck you, I'm going on my terms.
Mm-hmm. Like dying on your sword.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think JJ will get anything out of it if he beats Ishii. I just don't think that long term that's the story you want to be telling, because I think there's a lot more in Jacobs giving him another chance, giving him another challenge to try and earn that spot, because he can build himself back up to the top, get another challenge of Jacob, and keeps falling short, and then he gets it. And I think that's him chasing it is a better story than him succeeding, in my opinion, at the moment.
Sorry, guys, I just got too emotional there. I was fighting through. I could feel the little tickle at the back of the throat coming. I'm like, of course, I finished my Very good.
We're currently trying to extract the cat.
It's lovely. I can just hear it in the background, and
he's our fourth guest. Can hear him meowing all the way.
Next time we'll just get a cat. We'll get a camera on the cat next time.
And then I was trying to get him to come to next week, but we weren't having any of it. Go on, bugger off, dicks.
Wait, nice way to talk to your wife, then?
Dave's not talking to his children. Oh dear. So I think Spike, I heard you say that you were leaning more on a Tomohiro Ishii win. What was your thoughts, Dave? Who did you just quickly?
Yeah, I said the same. That head says Ishii, even though I do really like the fact that they've presented us with a cool story for how JJ could win. and why it would make good like booking sense for JJ to win. I don't think that's what they will do. I think that is literally just there to give you that doubt and make you question it.
Yeah. So Dave, we can't beat around from it anymore. We have to get to the match. Undisputed British Tag Team title match. Grizzled Young Veterans versus Sunshine Machine. If Sunshine Machine lose, they must disband from Rev Pro forever. Dave, the floor is yours.
Sunshine Machine will win. Sunshine Machine will win. They will become 2-time tag champions. The Copper Box will rejoice, and I will go home with my lucky scarf, happy as Larry. And I'm not going to think about any other possible outcome. I'm just going to keep manifesting that, because that is what I need to happen.
Spike, how about you?
I see Sunshine Machine winning. A couple of reasons. I think we need to get the belts off the vets. I think it's time. I don't think they've done a lot with it. But the interesting thing I want to see is if they keep the stipulation.
No, they won't. That's that has on record been said. I can't remember where and when, but definitely it's been canonized that they will break up if the next time they lose until they get the tag titles.
Yeah.
Once they've got the tag titles, that then the gambit is over.
I'd like to see them, because I mean the tag division's been a bit stale. I've said from day one, I think putting the belts in subculture was a problem. Because ever since then we haven't had that. I mean, you look at the year before when we had Greedy Souls and Sunshine Machine, and we had some of the best tag matches in the UK ever. And then we've had the run we've had. Put it back on Sunshine Machine. Let's do Sunshine Machine Souls again. Let's do Young Blood again. Let's do some absolute epics and get the tag division back up as it should be. I don't want to see them break up unless you're going to do a big time. Unless you're going to do the TK and Chuck. I don't think the Grizzled Young Vets should get that accolade either. I don't think it's theirs to take. I think if you're going to give it to someone, you give it to the Souls who could work it, or you give it to a babyface team that will have that in a similar way that Will Ospreay won't use a Tiger Driver. You have a tag team that cannot get over the fact they broke up Sunshine Machine. I think there's too many good stories to tell rather than just giving it to the Vets. So I think Sunshine Machine are going to be the 2-time champs, and Dave will be very, very happy.
Yeah.
On to the next match.
I've said about this this match, Dave is going to be crying at the end of this match no matter what happens. Right, that is a given.
Yeah,
like that is the one outcome. I think that Sunshine Machine retain here. I can't say I want that. Now, I'm not saying this purely as they do nothing for me as an act, right? For me, because they do nothing for me as a tag act, it means that when they get announced, I'm like, okay, fine, right? And now, where my mind started going differently at the beginning of this year was they came over. Sorry, Grizzled Young Vets came over, worked Sunshine Machine in Progress, and that match was very, very good. I didn't go and see it live, but I watched it back. Very, very good. And I thought, okay, Grizzled Young Vets over here. This looks like we're going to be on the start of something. That was January. And then they came over in April. I can remember, because I think it was April time. I think it was that big card that we went to with Josh Alexander. I'm pretty sure that was the show they were there.
Easter.
Easter. And I remember that thinking, okay, what we can see more. And then from there, we saw Fantastica Mania at Barcelona, and that's it, right? We've not seen them since then. I know, Spike, we were chatting, and you would go, well, have they been doing anything? And they have in the States. And I've seen that they've been going out to the West Coast in the States. And I think roughly from where they are in Florida, it's probably about an 8-hour flight. Judging by the times when I've flown over to the West Coast, it's probably about anywhere between a 6 to an 8-hour flight there, which it's not that much further to come to the UK, right? I think, as we alluded to last time, Grizzled Young Vets are not doing a lot with Rev Pro because they're trying to get Burning Heart off the ground as this like touring destination thing almost, like 3 shows a weekend, couple of times a year. It just feels odd otherwise. Like that feels to me what they're doing. So I think you can't keep the titles on them unless you're doing a keep it on them, get the Sunshine Machine thing going, and then you again, what was it we've got after this? You probably wouldn't see it on the J Cup, so probably again around Global War sort of time, maybe. And even then, that doesn't make sense to me as who would come in and take the titles, because Global Wars it would be a foreign team, right? Well, you think so? Someone from New Japan, someone from CMLL. So I think Sunshine Machine have to win here because we need to get the titles off of GYV, or whether you do that at the show the following weekend, or you have GYV suddenly get announced for Berlin and a European team takes it, comes over to it. But none of those feel like they make sense, right? They're just things that could happen. I also like the idea of Sunshine Machine split up just because I think it's the more interesting story. I just do. It's like, but the most interesting story that I think could satisfy everything here would be Sunshine Machine win the titles, but TK still turns on Mambo. And it's almost like an odd couple. Like you've got one heel tag team champion, one babyface tag team champion, and seeing how they play that. I think that could be an interesting story. It'd be a bit different. And you could then have the reconciliation down the line if you really wanted to. But
you could definitely do it with them winning, but TK not changing his current mindset of serious business, like getting frustrated with Chuck when Chuck's like being a bit flamboyant or taking risks or getting, being like visibly disappointed when something doesn't go how it was meant to go.
Yeah.
And that leads to when they lose the titles, the turn happening.
Yeah.
Not that I want that, but I would prefer that to the current possibility.
Yeah, because the tag team titles are non-existent right now, right? So we're hitting all cylinders, right? We've got the cruiserweights are looking good. Like we can see the next batch that's coming up, who's filling that spot. The world title scene or the British heavyweight title scene is in good hands, right? Whoever we've got filling that out. The women's title scene is looking amazing and developing well there. The one area that we're just not is the tag division. Like there's teams coming up, but we need something more there.
Yeah. If you look at the Souls run, they had the belts on every single show. Every card that was announced, the belts were on the show. And we need that again because it does add a lot of weight to it because you don't see those belts, you forget there's a tag division. You see the boys wearing those belts. Even the Sunshine Machine, they'll be on every show holding the belt. And that's what we need more than anything. It's just the best division. I love the British tag division. It's the best to watch. And I think we need those belts back because, I mean, Grizzly Young Vets are amazing, but something's happened. And
something's not right there, is it?
Yeah, we need to forget about them and move on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's us done the card, gents. So,
with the pre-show match that we're assuming, I assume by the time the pods come out, it will be confirmed, unless they're not going to announce the pre-show match. They're just going to announce there is one. Yeah. But if we're right to assume, therefore, that it is, as we spoke about earlier, Francisco and Santos, Greedy Souls, Youngblood, and Shah and Josh James. Would you have one of the heel side? Would you have, if it's at 4-on-4, would you have the heels take the victory to play into the kind of play up Francisco and Golden Boy a bit more and kind of add a little bit more kind of doubt between Josh James and Shah?
Yeah, I purposely would. I think as well. I'd pin Josh James and I'd have it be Brendan that does it. Like that's who I think it should be. Brendan getting the pin out of all four of them. Brendan specifically.
Or Francisco.
Yeah, I think Francisco as well.
I think he has a part in it, but I think Josh James Shakespeare, Brendan, after Sunday, that interaction there, he's
it was great, wasn't it?
going for Josh.
Yeah.
So I think Josh Stephen, Josh James, but I think Francisco's part of the finish.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh, we're hearing a lot tonight, don't we?
Yeah. This is why we get on so well.
Exactly. Well, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you both. Looking at this, we have gone on nearly 3 hours. Would you believe it? We got on this slightly earlier start time tonight.
Should we timestamp it so if people just want to listen to the Summer Sizzler chat, the Copper Box chat, they know when to jump in. If they want to listen to the Southampton review, they know where to jump out.
Yeah, this is absolutely going to be timestamped. We timestamp everything now because when we found out how easy it was to timestamp, thought, well, there's no point not doing that anymore. But no, the idea was we were going to start a little bit earlier because I thought I'll get on with some of the edit tonight ahead of my normal edit night being Wednesday night, and I'm going to be sitting in Cardiff that night. But hey, it's been so much fun, and I can't believe it's been 3 hours that we've been chatting. Does anyone want to? I mean, obviously we've got social media handles on the screen, but has anyone got anything they want to plug? Dave, you got any articles out you want to mention?
No, pretty quiet week this week, mate, in terms of just 10 takeaways and heroes and villains from Southampton. The usual stuff there. And then I'll have a Copper Box preview come out tomorrow. So if this drops Friday night, I'll have a Copper Box preview come out Saturday morning for people to read on the train on their way to London if they fancy it.
Beautiful stuff.
Which will be, and then, buy a programme at the Copper Box. Buy a programme at the merch table, and then you can read some of my official words.
Will you sign it for everyone that buys one, Dave?
Yes. Like, that would be the weirdest interaction in the world. It'd be like, get one of these like cool famous people to sign it, not this like stupid dumbass Mark.
Yeah, I'm going just to continue so that people will actually sit and watch the show back and go, who are they on about? My villain of the week is someone in the crowd. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's. I did joke. I whispered to George in the show. I said, I feel like we could do a 10 takeaways, but just based on the crowd.
Oh yeah, yeah.
One of my favourite ones was when one of the guys in the crowd, who he likes a few drinks in the queue. He'll know who he is. He turned around to me and said, "I've decided I'm going to have a break from the beer." And I was like, "All right, okay." Like, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not," and he wasn't joking. Deadly serious. I'm not going to have another one for at least an hour. Oh, okay. Not quite what I thought you meant. I thought this was a sudden step into sobriety, but no. Yeah. So one takeaway is Tom's given up the beer. Takeaway number 2, Tom's back on the beer.
I saw this thing on TikTok earlier, and it was like a video. It's like, what male name is the biggest red flag? And the one that everyone said was Tom. Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. But yes, this is why you need to come to Southampton. Not only this, but if you sit near Dave, you get sweet nothings whispered in your ear as well. It's great.
Oh, I saved them just for you boys.
Excellent. Love to hear that.
Everybody else has to pay to read them on my website.
I'm just going to add, my hero of the week is the little kid. Again, he was amazing and just shouting out to all the rest.
There was a little girl as well, right?
Oh,
were they together?
Yeah.
Or were they two? So. Was it separate families?
I think they might have been the same family, but he was the one that I saw mostly just shouting, going.
There were loads of families in Southampton this week, and it was lovely because I love taking my kids to the wrestling. But one thing that I did kind of pick up on was we didn't adapt to the fact that there were children there, and we just carried on as normal with fuck 'em up chants and fuck off Lizzie chants and all this stuff. Whereas normally, like when I go to St. Neots, I'm really respectful of the fact there's lots of families there, and I'm like very polite with the chanting and singing. But yeah, hopefully those families didn't mind. My kids always know when they go to the wrestling, that's their opportunity to be a bit wild and let their hair down. And my little girls will lean over to me and be like, "Are we allowed to join in when they're swearing?" I'm like, yeah, go for it. Why not?
Love that. Parenting 101 with Dave there. Love that.
Yeah, why not?
Spike, have you got anything you want to shout out? Any handles? I know you've got is that your Instagram one there? Is that your on screen? Spike likes wrestling.
That's the Instagram one, and the Twitter one I've changed it now. Spike likes Grat.
Spike likes Grab.
They wouldn't let you have Spike likes wrestling, would they, mate?
Well, no, there's too many characters, which I think is a bit judgmental. But Elon Musk. Innit? I would want to shout out though that there was a feeling at the 1865 that everyone was a bit emotional, and I just want to shout out that everyone was just so open with each other, and that community that we've all built is just my favorite thing. As you've both heard me say, I'm so proud of what it's become. Like simple, tiny things like chatting to about mental health in a queue with a group of strangers. And yesterday really did feel like we're here to see the wrestling and we're here to escape, and we're going to escape together, and we're all going to join in together. And then there was little things that when the kids did chant, it was that togetherness that, that little boy shouting for JJ Gale. We'll boost him. We'll big him up, and we'll join that. And you just look over, and the beam and smile on the faces. It was just such a wonderful atmosphere yesterday for an indie show in Southampton. And I'm just really proud of everyone for how it came across. And my hero of the week is David Francisco. He will always be hero of the week.
I was just about to say that almost was a perfect point to end the episode on. I'm now going to say that is a perfect point to end the episode on because you've been given too much freedom, boy. So, guys, we've officially hit the 3-hour mark. Let's go. Catch some sleep. Speak to you all later. Take care, lads.
Love you all, boys. See you later.
Bye.